Morning, everybody. Welcome back. Today's guest is Mike Ritland. I've known Mike for quite some time, and actually at the end of the episode, we were talking about his podcast, the Mike Drop Podcast, which is fantastic, by the way. And I had been on it years ago. I didn't realize I was one of his first guests. I think we started it at relatively the same time period. Former Navy SEAL, very, very accomplished canine trainer. I would send you over to MikeRitland.com as the best place to gather information about him. It's going to tell you everything that you would want to know, and I'll drop it in the show notes. It's a little bit of background, the dog training, what they do with the dogs, the dog food, all of the stuff that we ended up talking about on the podcast. So I'll send you towards that. Man, we talked about a variety of things. What he's considered to be the founder of on the internet, whether there's truth to any of that stuff. We really get into it. So let's just get into the episode. Before I do that, though, stick with me for a little bit. Let me pay the bills, then we'll be off and running with Mr. Mike Ritland. Today's episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. Look at this. Got some right here from the local shop in town, BRCC Kalispell. Let's head over to their website, shall we? I am looking at Operation Neptune Spear. For those of you unfamiliar, that was the military operation name for the military operation that killed Osama bin Laden. Are there conspiracy theories surrounding it? Yes, there are. Is there contention about who may have done what? Yes, there is. But who cares? We're talking about coffee. So this would be part of the exclusive coffee subscription, the ECS. I haven't even gotten my bag of this yet, which is quite frustrating. The bag art, spectacular as usual. Who doesn't want to see an owl wearing night vision goggles? I do. That's actually doesn't look like what's on the bag. On the bag is a dude what looks like what's an M4, some panos on, you know. Throwing it back a little homage, if you will, to Operation Neptune Spear. Oh, and there you go. There's a what's it about? What's the ECS about? What is a micro lot? I don't even know the answer to that. What is a micro lot? A micro lot offers a distinct and sought-after exotic coffee roast, carefully chosen by Evan Hafer, also known as Micro SF, and the BRCC Coffee Development Team. You guys know the deal. You can look at all their different types of coffee. You can get all types of merch, apparel, things to make coffee in, things to drink coffee out of, their new energy drinks. Head over to blackriflecoffee.com. It's the number one way to support me and the podcast is by supporting the brands that I work with.
Okay, got the red smoke.
Gun run, north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. Get cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
A lot of the workers there, and so it's real hit or miss. It's like some people you get in and they're like, oh shit. It's like they're almost scared of the gun and they call their manager over or whatever.
Oh, they get excited here.
Oh, really? Yeah,
like, they're just like, what do you got?
Yeah.
What do we got in here?
Yeah. But it seemed that way. Picking it up was super easy, you know.
Yeah.
Like they brought it out to me, like called my name and asked
Yeah.
for my ID, whereas like in Dallas, it's the huge.
Which, by the way, is the way a firearm should likely be handled by TSA and security.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them just rifle cases just spit out at major airports. Like, I don't know what's in there. Maybe it's golf clubs. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Michael, did you notice that the other Michael is the first guest ever to bring his own drink koozie? I think we need to take a moment to celebrate this.
I think we should.
Why do you travel with – let's hold it up.
Yeah.
Why do you travel with your own koozie?
It's made out of fucking wool and it's handmade.
Okay.
So that's really the gist of it. Yeah, it's a sentimental thing.
Like
know?
Everywhere. If you go anywhere, you take that thing with you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I traveled here with it. I flew with it.
What other kind of shit do you travel with? So obviously firearm, koozie.
Yeah.
So we're at some pretty far ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the middle? Do you like lighter?
No. Crack pipe sometimes.
I mean, you can always probably source that locally.
I mean, yeah. Well,
What else you got? Yeah, you got your little.
My we'll call it a satchel.
Okay.
I keep kind of everything in here. Like
Indiana Jones carries one. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Michael doesn't get that reference at all.
He's pretty masculine. Yeah, I mean, I just keep all the same shit that anybody would carry, I guess. But I like to have.
Can we be clear that just not anybody carries their own koozie? Like, let's just start with that premise.
Well, I like to be a little special.
Okay.
And different, but.
Somebody you probably got a firearm in there.
Got a firearm in there.
You got stuff to stop bleeding as well?
No, actually, I don't. So,
God damn it,
you're
Mike.
supposed to be your first responder, but Sometimes I will carry a tourniquet, but the smallest one I have is still like I find that it kind of gets in the way. It's like I don't like anything bigger than that to carry, and to go like full blowout kit, you'd need something bigger than that with all the other shit I have in it. So
we sell at the coffee shop some Fieldcraft Survival little kits. I'll hook you up with one before you take off. They're tiny. Yeah. There's a couple versions. There's like a very large trauma kit and a small one. I'm kind of the same way. I usually will. Yeah, I mean, my fanny pack is shockingly enough also has a firearm in it.
Yeah, that is a surprise. What do you carry?
Well, this is how we get fucking banned from YouTube. Yeah. Currently going with the 365 fuse with the red dot and a light underneath. This thing is badass.
Yeah, I have, I would say, almost the same setup. It's very similar.
Dude, I'm pretty sure this mag, it's 21 plus 1.
Yeah, I don't have the red dot. But it's I do have it's a little bit tricked out on the trigger and the grip.
Dude, feel that grip. It comes stapled like that. It's got the extended magazine port.
Yeah.
And a frame size like that, 21 plus 1 if you want to.
That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know what to tell people other than if you need more than 21.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get it done anyway.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's funny. I mean, I was
shocking. You have a light on your pistol. It's almost as if half of every day is in the darkness.
Almost.
Do you know the conversations I have with people about that who would tell me that I don't need a light, and they also don't have sights that can be seen in low light or no light situations?
Yeah, I have Trijicon night sights, but I still haven't crossed over into the red dot thing. I just I don't know. Like to me, it feels kind of clumsy. But
really,
yeah,
it's a little bit of a different presentation.
Yeah,
the way I get around it, or I've gotten used to it, is I will press it out as if I'm just going to use the iron sights, because if you set it up correctly, you should be able to co-witness. And so if you line up your iron sights, the red dot's right there.
Yeah, I admittedly haven't spent a lot of time messing with it either, just because it's kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
How is that possible, sir? You're an ex-Navy SEAL. You should be an expert.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I can throw knives.
Can you kill people with your pinkies?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Isn't it fantastic the things people think about our old job?
Well, to me, I don't know about it. It seems like that that is shifting a little with social media and guys from our community going and doing things, and I think dispelling some of those myths of being embarrassed or beaten at things that people didn't expect them to be beaten at, type of stuff. But
the one that constantly gets me is that they think that all special operations people know how to fight.
Yeah.
That is not my experience.
Well, I mean, fist fight, yes.
Fist fight, or even grappling as well.
Yeah.
Like if it's a physical confrontation, they're just going to...
I would say unarmed combat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you graduated 215, right?
Yeah.
You were my Hooyah class.
I remember, actually.
I know.
Yeah.
And I don't remember in our training pipeline, I went to... in a selection program that I was going through for command on the East Coast, they brought in somebody we'll call a hand-to-hand expert.
Yeah.
Leave the name out of it.
Does it start with a D?
Yeah. First name and last name. Mm-hmm. Double D, if you will. Where I was struck in the head multiple times. So for a week, we either got struck in the head in the afternoon, after house runs, or in the morning and then did house runs.
Yeah, which is the best way to do it.
That was literally the only that I remember. And I'm, again, because I've heard this individual may or may not be litigious in nature, so we'll leave a lot out of it. But the stance, the whole theory behind it. And I remember him saying, because he was the one who actually was there.
Yeah.
You're good to go. You fucking murk people in bars with this. Like, this is the one solution. I avoid violence at all costs. Michael and I both do Jiu-Jitsu. I've been at it for about 7 years at this point. Really enjoy it. You do Jiu-Jitsu as well, right? It's not magic. You need striking and all this. I look back at the things that I was taught, and I'm like, none of that works.
Yeah, woefully inadequate.
None of it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, really. I mean, I know it's come a long way. But yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair too, though, is that taking a step back, if you think about the amount of time that we have to spend on everything else that you have to be really, really good at, it doesn't make sense to spend much time doing that. Having said that, the little bit of time that that we did put into it could have been way better spent than it was, and I think it is now. But
I think what would have been cool is if they could have introduced something, whether it was Muay Thai or boxing or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, let people pick, right? Or just call it MMA.
Yeah.
Get people with enough that they could go, I mean, in the morning, like over I was at TradeEd, the OPSO at TradeEd, or the training officer. Which one? I don't fucking remember. It's 13 years ago. I think it was the OPSO. Training over at Team 3 OPSO at TradeEd. The first floor on the northern side was that massive gym.
Yeah.
You could get guys started where then in the morning they could just train with themselves. You know what I mean? Like you're a purple belt at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could easily in the morning go lift for whatever and then do 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like you could still have that ability to polish the blade.
Yeah.
It's possible. And I think it's important.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, the amount of hand-to-hand altercations or interactions in combat, while limited, can absolutely be the difference between life and death. You know, so like I don't think we should be professional MMA fighters, but there needs to be a minimum standard level of competency that for sure wasn't there. I don't know if it is now or not, but
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think if it is, it's probably more because the guys are actually pursuing it on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think honestly, those type of practices or martial arts, I bet you a lot of people have found them before they even went into the military. So it's just carryover at this point.
Yeah.
Because the popularity is going through the roof.
Yeah, I think so. And I know for me, like I had a similar experience with the combatives program, you know, because we were around the same time. And
the head striking?
Yeah. To me, the thing that always...
people would think I'm joking.
No,
I just got fucking hit in the head for a week.
Yeah. I will say that fucking bone in your hand, like
Sure.
it is an effective striking mechanism for in close...
I guess. Do you know what's not? The fire hands associated with
Agreed.
said mechanism.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like it's one thing. I mean, to me, it would be like focusing in jiu-jitsu on one technique. Like, let's say it's arm bars. I mean, whatever it is. But that's all you focus on. You know, it's like, well, if you can't get in a position to strike somebody that way, then it's fucking useless. If somebody's keeping range on you, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And to me, the biggest thing, the thing that I had the biggest problem, even knowing nothing, was the stance. You know, and you can kick me in the knee all fucking day if I stand like this. It's like, no, you can't.
No.
Like, if you run into anybody who knows how to throw leg kicks, you are fucking screwed.
Have you ever had somebody who is an actual fighter give you like a
thigh
just
kick?
like a little 30% little?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It feels. I've seen it drop people like a sniper shot to the chest.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a fucking log is hitting you in the leg. I mean, it's crazy.
How much more does that give you appreciation for watching the UFC and they're standing there trading those shots?
Yeah, or I mean, you like some of the actual Muay Thai fights in Thailand where they're just sitting there teeing off on each other for 15 rounds. Like, I think it's called kotiate training, like the bone hardening, where you like lightly tap your forearms and your shins to slowly build up.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm more into the shiatsu training these days. A little massage, sit on a comfortable couch.
Yeah. Happy ending, maybe.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
Michael prefers a male therapist over a female, so
Like the strong hands.
I'm not getting into this conversation.
Get in
Too
if you
late.
want to.
Too late. You're already in it.
How'd you find jiu-jitsu?
So I have 2 kids, and when they were kind of in the late elementary, junior high time frame, there was a pretty decent MMA gym not far from where we lived, and I just wanted to put them in it, basically. And so put them in it. They were in it for a little while, and then, I would go and watch, and I was like, fuck, why don't I give this a shot, and did, and probably not too dissimilar to some of your experiences early on when a 16-year-old, 112-pound kid makes you feel like you're getting raped by an octopus. I was like, this is embarrassing. And so then, I just kind of went full tilt into it. And I did get pretty badly injured early on. I had a full tricep tear with an avulsion fracture.
How did this happen?
It was a pretty seasoned blue belt that was a fair bit bigger and stronger than me. And I was in his guard, and he just went to trap my arm for a sweep. And it was almost more like a palm strike. And I think I just had, beat up elbows and tendons from, the job. But it just, I don't know if it just hit me right at the right spot at the worst time or whatever, but it just snapped. And it wasn't violent. It wasn't like, being thrown really hard or posting really hard or anything like that. I mean, it was just a very simple, just kind of little trap like that, and it just snapped. And immediately I was like, fuck. I mean, it was that, like, I wouldn't say it was super painful. I mean, it was painful, but it was that burning, like hot poker feeling.
Something's not right here.
And immediately, like, I laid on my back and I tried to raise my arm, and it just went like that. It was completely disconnected. And so that took almost a year to get back to where I could just do like push-ups really, normally. Yeah. And so I took another probably 6 or 8 months from that time until I started rolling again. But I was really hesitant to do it because, especially with doing what I do for a living with dogs, like having one arm completely immobilized me, that could put me out of business, I mean, it was a really negative impact business-wise. So couldn't handle dogs, couldn't catch dogs in a bite suit.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah, so when I came back, we had that conversation a few months ago about primarily doing private lessons for that reason. And so I went to an academy, a checkmat academy for a few months, and it just wasn't a good fit. Ended up going back to the coach that I originally had my kids in, and then did that for several years. Then he ended up moving, so now I'm with a bigger gym in Dallas for the last couple of years that is good. I still do primarily private lessons, but the nice thing is the coach understands all of what my injuries are and is very strategic about our training. But when I went to every one of these guys, I said, my number one priority over learning jiu-jitsu is to try to not re-injure myself to that level.
Yeah, it's supposed to enhance your life, not ruin your professional life.
Yeah. So I said, that is my number one thing. Like, I can't have an injury like that. I know there's no guarantees. I just want the training methodology to mirror that is my number one goal, and so it's been good. I mean, it is a little limited. They are strategic about bringing certain guys in that go to their normal classes, or there's times where I'll go to group classes, but even then, like, my coach will say, hey, I want you to roll with this guy, or I want you to, whatever. So
the worst jiu-jitsu injury I've had was from a 15-year-old.
Really? What was it?
My shoulder came out of the socket and it was a pec tear is what it ended up being. Completely my fault. It was my business partner's son.
Wow.
We had just finished an hour of rolling with just savage black belts on the mat, like full fucking fighting for your life for an hour.
Yeah.
And this, how big would you say? He was actually working at the coffee shop today.
Well, now he's big.
Yeah, how big would you say he is?
I think he's like 190 or 200.
He's 16.
Yeah.
So on the street, you'd might cross the street at night. You know what I mean? Like, he's a huge kid. Super, super nice kid. We're rolling. I wanted to work on an armbar escape. So I was laying on my side. I let him grab my right arm, and he threw his leg over the top and fell back. And I think I was so relaxed that I wasn't defending myself at all. And I think there was just too much laxity. So when he pulled, it cavitated out, which was one of the most disgusting noises I'd ever heard, and then came right back in. He heard it. He was like pale white afterwards. And I mean, my whole bicep was, I didn't know what it was at the time. My whole bicep and forearm turned black and blue. My chest turned black and blue, swollen. And in the end, went to the hospital. They didn't see anything. The shoulder was looking like it was stable enough. And in the end, it was a pec tear, like a partial pec tear on my right pec and a little bit of involvement in my shoulder. It's fucking horrible.
Man.
All because I was laying there just like, whatever, no big deal. And I think he pulled early, and it was just at that angle. It was one of the most disgusting noises I've ever heard.
Was it super painful?
Only in that moment when it went out, and then when it went back in.
Yeah. Man.
But I screamed tap.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of looked around like, that's a noise you don't often hear. And it was the same thing. I just sat there with my arm at my side, knowing that something was wrong, and all you can think in your head is, how bad is this? How fucked am I?
Yeah. And for how long?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking straight. It was gnarly.
Dude,
and
brutal,
15-year-old fucked me up.
Yeah. But he was smaller then?
I mean, he's smaller than me, but
Yeah, he's still a big guy.
He's a big guy. Yeah. Completely my fault. You can be, because people tell you, hey, just relax. Yeah. Well, guess what? Don't relax too much.
There's a point.
I think all I needed was probably just a little bit of tension in my shoulder, and it would have protected it. But that set me off the mats for, I don't know, a couple months.
Yeah. Did you not have to have surgery for it?
No.
Yeah,
No. And it's like you can see like the tendon on my like. I looked into it, but it's not a full tear.
Yeah.
It was a partial tear, so I just kind of work around it.
Yeah.
I don't know. If anybody out there listening can figure out a way to fix it, it'd be great.
How experienced was he at that point?
He's a white belt.
Oh, no shit.
That's completely my fault. Like I said, completely my fault.
Yeah.
But I was, you know the deal. You have to let people work though too.
Yeah.
And it was the last round. We were going at a chill pace. He wasn't going hard.
Yeah.
It just
Bad angle. I mean, I think it was kind of that same thing with me. Like we weren't going super hard.
Yeah.
It was a pretty normal roll, and it was just a weird angle and just kind of the exact wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
It's not a no consequence activity.
no, for sure.
It's a full contact sport.
Yeah.
The gentle art my ass.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, compared to boxing, Muay Thai, it's still one that you can at least, go easier paced,
I can't even mess around with that ballistic stuff anymore. My head, I have been hit in the head so many times, or just the concussion history that I have no interest ever in practicing a ballistic art like that.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I do think. Do you guys practice striking and takedowns and like
Takedowns for sure. They're up in the Whitefish gym. They'll do a jits with hits, is what they call it, and they'll put on bigger gloves. They're not hitting each other hard, but their strikes are allowed. But again, they're probably doing a lot of open hand and probably just touching and reminding you, hey,
you could
maybe inverting underneath somebody with your face directly underneath their fist is not a good idea.
Yeah. I do think that's important. I mean, if the practicality of it is a primary goal of yours, because that's one thing I do see. I'm sure you see the same thing. Like as it gets more and more popular, it's becoming more and more like karate and taekwondo in the 80s in some gyms,
places,
in some ways,
There is, in my opinion, which only counts for me, it seems like there are people who are really interested in the sports side, and there seem to be people really interested in the self-defense real-world application. Sometimes there's some overlay in between the two, and I think both are fine. Like if you want to just go do the sport thing, right on. If you want to do the self-defense thing, right on. I think if you only focused on a rule set where points can determine the outcome, there's a chance where the self-defense aspect of that is really going to be diminished.
Yeah.
But as long as you realize that, like go live your life and do that. I'm all about it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Also, don't fight anybody.
Yeah.
Just like don't get in fights.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's it's to me, it's always been like I don't compete. I don't have any interest in competing, and same with like. I will say I find myself even with my coach kind of reminding him because he does compete. He's a pretty high level guy, and the gym is pretty successful. A lot of competitors come out of there, and so they're very focused on pans and worlds and all of the big competitions. But to me, the drawback with that is there's a lot of kind of fancier. This is the new thing right now, type of stuff that I have no interest in,
Old man jitsu.
That's
all I want to do, which largely encompasses me just laying on you.
Well, I think, and enjoying it.
Consensually, of course. Training partners, we agree to this, but like I'm not trying to out cardio a 20-year-old.
Yeah. Well, and I think Hodger Gracie, I think is the best example of like if you can do the basics, or I mean whether it's pure jiu-jitsu or even looking at the Dagestanis in MMA, I mean, you look at how dominant they are on the ground, and look what they're catching guys like Charles Oliveira with, a basic head and arm choke that he can't keep them from doing. It's like, so you don't need to be super fancy. I mean, to me, you were at the command. To me, like I was never there, but I know enough about basics, whether it's in shooting or dog stuff or combatives or whatever, is that, if you master the basics to the level where you never have to think about them, to me, that's a hard person to beat,
The key to the command and this is again only my opinion. I bring this up sometimes when I'll talk to people because they make it's as if that particular place or the JSOC umbrella has this allure where they think that it's full of abnormal superhuman people, which is completely not the case. You and I could both talk about our individual buds experiences. Fucking average, skinny bean poles that if they would have let me bet on as an instructor, I'd be broke because I'd be like, no. Where's the dude? Looks like he's chipped out of marble. He'd be the first guy to quit. And it's the skinny little quiet dude. You're like, fuck, okay. JSOC is not, they don't go to some other pool to fill up JSOC. They screen from, the Army guys will screen from all 4 branches, even though most of them are coming from the Army. The Navy, obviously, it's coming from the SEAL community, but they're not people who are a master of everything, and that's what people think JSOC is. They actually are really, 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 really good at only a few things because they stripped away all the other bullshit.
Yeah.
So it's mastery of the fundamentals and 1 or 2 jobs. Like, it's really, find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze. You're really working on the finish.
Yeah.
Like, get to the threshold of the door and take down this objective. If that's all I ask people, and imagine a conventional team. They would be just as good at that stuff if you took away all the other bullshit and they didn't have to do 3 weeks of closed circuit diving in the San Diego Bay.
Yeah.
Going
a month
back
of hydro.
Yeah, totally. Collecting golf balls over at the, by the bridge, or 2 weeks of over the horizon Zodiac stuff.
Yeah.
And all that time was spent in the kill house. You're gonna be really good. And then let's not forget, there's like a 12-to-1, 15-to-1 support to operator ratio there.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, I think also the fact that every SEAL platoon at a regular SEAL team, every time it starts back up, you have a new crop of a handful of brand new guys.
Yeah.
So you're always resetting to that lowest common denominator.
Crawl, walk, run. Do you ever get out of the crawl?
You don't. Yeah.
You said you're in a 24-month cycle, 6 months of which you're on deployment, and then every restart of that 18 months, you crawl again.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't go faster than, a bunch of 20-year-olds that just got out of buds, so you're always starting over. Whereas, at the command, it's like you're starting with a bare minimum that's just several years of experience.
And they're only bringing in a few people a year, because they aggregate the people out to the squadrons, and the experience level in roster is so deep.
Yeah.
But again, it's all in that narrow responsibility. If you were to task a JSOC command with a combat swimmer operation, let me tell you, that's going to be a fucking shit show. You should probably get that SDV.
Yeah.
You know why? Because guess what they focus on?
Yeah.
Like, this is not that hard of a formula.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of goes back to people thinking that everybody from special operations is just a ninja. It's no.
Yeah. Well,
I fucking wish that was the case.
Yeah. I think, even compared to a regular SEAL team, I don't think they're doing as much combat swimmer nowadays either. But, to me, there would be no reason to do an underwater mission that's not exclusively relegated to SDV. There's just no reason for it.
Why give it to anybody other than those that specialize on it? It's as if a hostage rescue mission were to come up, probably give it to the people. Let's say it was an airplane. Yeah. Guess what, CAG? You're up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine a worse tactical environment than trying to enter an aircraft that had been taken hostage? There's no way.
Yeah. There's so many things that can and probably will go wrong in that. What a horrible fucking environment to have to go into.
Yeah.
And those guys are masters at it.
Good on them. And for people who know what I'm talking about, JSOC largely formed after the horrendous catastrophe of Desert One. The original tasking for Delta at the time was aircraft. Yeah. And development group was cruise ships. Neither of those things have ever happened for real, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
that's where it came from.
Yeah, the Achille Lara was probably the closest thing, I don't know if that was.
I think they just did recon on that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I don't think they actually took down the vessel.
Okay.
Because didn't they end up killing the guy and throwing him overboard?
I don't remember. The only reason it's even fresh in my mind.
Michael, look up the Achille Lara, which I have no idea how to spell.
Okay, I'll give it my best shot.
It was a ship. You could add ship to that.
Yeah, I think it's Achille like the tendon, and then Lauro, I think is how it's spelled. But the only reason it's even a little fresh in my mind is I actually just had Vice Admiral Harward on my show. I don't know if you remember him. He was
I do.
SEAL Team 3XO when I checked in, and then was the Commodore and
1985 hijacking by Palestinian terrorists. The ship was owned by Who Gives a Fuck, later renamed by its owner. Hundreds of passengers were crewed aboard. The hijack resulted in the death of Leon Klinghoffer, a 69-year-old Jewish-American passenger who was in a wheelchair. See, some things I remember. Let me see. The U.S. Navy SEALs were deployed to capture the terrorists, resulting in a complex and controversial. Click on that link, because I don't think they did anything other than click on that. Eventually, I believe it was Gold Squadron though who rolled up that fucker, who caught the guy decades later. Formerly armed Palestinian terrorists hijacked the ship off the coast of Alexandria, Egypt. 320 criminals, 80 passengers. The next morning, they also threatened to kill the British passengers. At this juncture, a highly trained U.S. Navy SEAL, that's right, highly trained.
Highly
Or
fucking.
maybe just trained. Navy SEAL assault force.
Moderately trained.
Yeah, captured killed terrorists for the harmony and kill Laura passenger crew. Went to Tartus, which is in Syria. They killed the 69-year-old Jewish American confined to a wheelchair as a result of a stroke. His body was then pushed overboard. Okay.
It doesn't say really.
Go down a little bit more, Michael. Let me see here. Unbeknownst to the terrorists, SEALs. Okay, so there was an assault force trailing them in F-14s, which honestly I still think is the most badass looking aircraft ever.
Oh, for sure.
And then 2 C-4 C-141s somewhere simultaneously. Let me see here. A delicate international standoff ensued, but the situation was resolved before. Yeah, I knew they didn't take it down.
Okay. So that's the closest thing. One time almost.
They were trying.
Yeah.
They were thinking very hard about it.
I think to pick between a jumbo jet and a cruise liner, I'll still take the cruise liner.
Oh,
all
my
day long.
God.
Yeah.
Every time I sit in an airplane, I think about it, like how, from a tactical perspective, if you're on the inside, you have the advantage.
Yeah.
People are going to die. It's going to be ugly. So
Yeah, there's no way to. I don't know how you. I mean, how do you even begin to try to do that?
I've had thoughts.
Yeah.
Sleeping gas.
Yeah, it's one way to do it.
I don't know if. Yeah. Do you flood the cabin with fentanyl and make everybody pass out? I mean, I don't know.
Kill everybody?
I just feel like opening a door or a window and getting enough people in there. And then you still have to deal, with the north-south problem. Like, do you go into the middle and you split the thing in half? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think, in just off the cuff thinking through it, if you're not going to sedate everybody,
It's a pretty good idea, isn't it?
it is. I would say that's probably the best idea. Is just flooding it with ridiculous speed. Where you're blowing past. Because like to me, if you think about it, almost like each
The
row
problem is you have to get the people into that confined environment to be speedy.
right. But if you consider or think each row is a hallway,
Yeah.
and so if you know that there are 30 rows and you have 30 guys and you just even if it's north south and you meet in the middle and then, and now you're clearing each one, like I don't know how else you do it. Like I'd be curious to. I don't know.
would send in a dozen dogs.
Yeah. Get fucking people getting bit.
Everyone's getting
everybody's
bit.
getting
Everybody's
bit.
going to get bit, but I think it'll resolve.
Yeah. You're not going to get shot. You're just going to get bit. So.
Oh, God. People have no idea what happens when those dogs get let off the chain.
Yeah, it's
Especially when they
brutal.
get a taste for it.
Yeah. I mean, you probably saw it.
I've been fucking bitten by one. This fucking scar on my face is from
A command dog?
Yes. Now, should I have been down on my knee, petting him and letting him lick my face and then stood up right next to him? No.
So it wasn't an operational thing.
No, it was in the goddamn airloft. I get snipped and I was like, fuck. And it's like immediately my shirt's red. I just walked over to medical and they put steri strips on it.
Yeah.
My fault.
Yeah.
I love dogs though.
Yeah. Well, I think, the misconception, because, so many people grew up with dogs and had pets and play fight with them.
Yeah.
That there's a misunderstanding of, when a dog who's bred, raised, and trained, for generations to be very singular purposely built and driven to injure people. And you look at just from a kind of a physics standpoint of the, pounds per square inch of pressure that they have in their pieces of spikes and serrated teeth, it's a kind of akin to like for the people, because I run into it all the time. They're like, well, I'll just shove my hand down his throat, and it's like, it's kind of like saying if you have an 18-volt DeWalt fucking drill bit or like say a wood drill bit, like you're going to spin it and you're just going to grab it and stop it.
Have you ever heard people say if you're bitten by a shark, just jam your thumbs in its eyes?
Yeah. It's kind of similarly ridiculous.
Well, let me know how it goes. I've watched a working dog in person in whatever, I would say 8K, but I don't know what our eyes are. Grab a hold of, the dude was dead. His teeth had sunk in over the top bones of the collarbone.
Yeah.
And when the dogs do the tugging, pulled this motherfucker from inside of a building out into a courtyard by his collarbone.
Yeah.
It's like, good luck.
Yeah.
Putting your fist down its throat.
Yeah. I think, until you get in a bite suit and putting it on, like you can feel how heavy and thick.
Yeah,
and
it still hurts.
It's like being wrapped with phone books, and you're like, I'm not even going to feel it. And they'll still break your skin and rip your flesh open even through all of that. I've been actually bit all the way through a bite suit before. I was actually working with Collin County. It was a sheriff's department in North Dallas that they had this dog that they were having trouble getting him to let go. And he had, I think, 15 or 16 live street bites, and every single one of them, wherever he grabbed, was ruined. Like one guy was hiding.
Tissue coming with.
Yeah, I mean, like all the way off.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the entire muscle group. Like one guy was hidden in a tree stump, and all that was visible was his calf. And so the dog bit his calf and pulled his entire calf muscle off. Like not most of it. I mean, the way you would eat a fucking chicken leg. Like pulled the whole fucking thing right off.
God.
And that dog, I admittedly, like, I've worked with a lot of departments, and a lot of times guys are like, hey, this dog's a pretty hard biter. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he is, And these guys are like, he bites pretty fucking hard. And I was like, okay. So I go in a semi-comp weight suit, which is like a middleweight. It's not the super heavy training weight Michelin Man fucking suits like most, like if it's your first time in a suit that they'll usually put you in. No gauntlets underneath. I remember when the dog first grabbed a hold of the outside of my forearm, I was just like, man, that motherfucker does bite hard. And it was a cold day. About 30 seconds later, my hand was wet. And I was like, there's no way I'm fucking sweating. And I looked down, and, dude, blood is just streaming out of the suit down off of my hand. I was like, holy shit. And the dog doesn't let go, so now.
How do you get him to eventually let go?
Well, I mean, it's just like Jiu-Jitsu and for anybody out there that runs into a dog that attacks them on the street, like, the pro tip piece of advice I'll give you is take their air away from them. Like you see people sticking their thumbs up their ass, picking up by their tails, trying to set them on fire. I mean, like spraying them with a hose, mace, all that shit. Like if the dog has a collar, you're 10 steps ahead of everything. And something as simple as like if you take the backhand of your collar, kind of like
twist it.
Just roll it over, lift straight up. It may take a few seconds. You can always get the dog off of you by choking them. Now, from a training standpoint, from my perspective, it's a bad idea because.
What if they don't have a collar?
I would use a belt.
Okay.
Like, if you don't have a belt, use a lead. I mean, find something.
You got to shut the airway off, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
you can try. I mean, it's kind of like with people. Like, if you're in fucking PT shorts, the dog has no collar, and you're out in the middle of nowhere on a gravel road, like you're shit out of luck. Long story short, have a fucking belt on you, but. If you don't, you can try to grab their throat. Very, very minimal amount of success, with trying to do that, though. So
that dog that didn't want to let go, is there any way to train that out of that dog once he gets to that point?
Yeah. And I would say that behavior generally is also created, not to get too far in the weeds dog psychology-wise, but that's, for dogs that are bred that way, that's their kind of highest level of reward is being able to bite, which is why you probably ran into dogs that get really amped up when guys are stacked on a door and they're barking and fucking spinning. And
I have, these fucking dogs, we'd start getting our kit on, and I'm like, hey, dog handler, can you please muzzle that fucking psychopath?
Yeah.
And just sitting in a helicopter. And I remember looking over and a dog just staring at me, just like,
yeah.
Or doing fucking even house runs. And those fuckers that just give you a little nip on the way by, I'm like, ow, asshole. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Just a little excitement nip. You're like, motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, it's like a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
So it's the best way to think of their mind in that environment is like a pressure cooker. And if you use a scale of, say, 0 to 10, where once it hits 11, it explodes, and that's when the dog is redirecting to the handler, to a good guy itself. Like I've seen dogs that get so amped up and they're out of reach of anybody, they'll turn around and bite their own fucking leg. They're so wound up. But so in that environment, number one is you have to realize that when the dog's mind is at that level, you're not going to reach it very easily through punishment. And unfortunately, that's what most people and trainers and handlers do is, okay, we're stacked on a door, the dog's in the back. This context, the dog's seen, 500 times. And in every instance, he's gone in and bitten somebody. So the one thing I tell everybody all the time is dogs don't think in a language, right? Which is hard to wrap your mind around.
Makes sense.
We, think in a language, dream in a language, talk shit about the guy that you're behind at Lowe's in a language. But so with them, everything is an A plus B equals C, very simple association. And so the problem with that context is that it's always, A is stacking on the door plus B, going in equals C, you get a bite. And so when you've done that enough times to where that formula in the dog's mind creates a pattern where the presence of A equals the anticipation of C, that's when it's a conditioned response on a problem. If C is an undesirable behavior, which in this case it is. So the key, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's very simple, is you need to make A plus B not equal C enough times to where the dog questions it.
And then they're looking for the answer from the handler?
Correct. And so in that environment, instead of putting a prong collar or a remote collar on and punishing the dog, because again, the dog's been bred, raised, and trained to be naturally forwardly aggressive and not take shit from anybody. So when that dog is at a 10 or a 9, and you put punishment into him, that's when you create conflict between the handler and dog.
Interesting.
And then that's when those problems now cascade and avalanche into a much bigger problem where now the dog is not going to let go when he's in the fight, because the other problem with that part of that equation is in training is the dog is on the bite. He doesn't want to let go. So what do? Well, we make him let go, right? So it's like an opposition reflex kind of thing. And so the two ways that you combat that in the first scenario is instead of trying to punish it, I'll stand there with a clicker, which, there's varying degrees of dismissiveness, I would say, within the working dog world as to how to approach it. There's still a lot of very archaic, old school guys that just want to, make the dog do what they want. From my perspective, again, putting yourself in the dog's shoes, just like anytime you're teaching anybody or anything, you have to look at it from their shoes. And so I just wait, and the second the dog stops barking, even if it's for a split second, I'll click and let him go in and bite. So now he understands when I shut up, when I'm calm, that's when I get to bite, so instead of picking a fight with him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're looking for that gap.
Right. And at first it's going to be a millisecond of silence. Obviously the goal is to cap that drive for, in some cases, maybe minutes, but baby steps, the first thing is get that light switch on in the dog's mind where, it's when I stopped barking I got to go in, and then you're building duration, you're building distraction, you're working on that, but that's the foundation. And the same thing with outing is that most times in training, the dog gets to bite for a very brief amount of time because it's part of a bigger exercise. We're doing call outs, doing vehicle extractions, whatever, and there's a lot of other players. And so the dog goes in, he gets the bite, and now he's on the bite and he's amped up, and 9 seconds later, you're screaming at him to let go. Well, his fight isn't done yet. He's still at that 11. And so just in the same vein is that if you choke the dog off, if you punish the dog off, I'm even more resistant to that type of training, because again, like what you're doing is you're basically either picking a fight with a dog because he's in it, right? I mean, just like if you get in a street fight and your wife taps you on the shoulder to stop doing it, like you're gonna have no idea. So the amount of pressure and compulsion that you have to apply to the dog when they're fighting that way is severe enough to one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to pick a fight and he's going to turn around and start fighting you now, or it's going to be so overwhelming to where the dog quits basically, and the pressure is so intense he gives up and shuts down. Both of those things are equally problematic, and the last thing I want with a dog that I'm putting potentially my or my guys' lives on that dog's shoulders, the last thing I want is a broken spirit and a lack of confidence going in a room with a twice convicted felon on meth with a screwdriver.
Yeah.
So same thing is that like when I work with departments, and this is something I'll do fairly regularly, is problems with outing is one of the most common issues with working canine programs. And so I'll get in a suit and let the dog come in, and I'll do like the Jiu-Jitsu reference would be a flow roll, or, we're just kind of going easy.
Yep.
I'm giving enough stimulation to make it enjoyable. I'm not putting a lot of shit on the dog, but I'm basically going to wait until that dog is physically exhausted before I even ask him to out that first session. And sometimes that may take several minutes. If it's, say, Northern Colorado in January, which I worked with a department, and it was like an hour and 20 minutes. Because it's 4 degrees outside.
Totally.
And the dog's young and in good shape and an ass eater. But no matter how long it takes, you wait until the dog is now, like, you see the eyes relax, the pupils aren't so dilated. Like he's calm, and you can tell he's fucking worn out. And so now I'll bring the handler in and say, okay, straddle the dog, pet him really, really calmly, and whisper in his ear to let go. And then the dog is like, okay, now that pressure cooker is boiled way the fuck back down. And so now when he does, and you can feel it, one of the reasons that sucks being a decoy is you need to be in basically the lightest weight suit so that you can feel the dog and the dog can feel you, because especially in the real world around here, 2 months ago, everybody's wearing puffy jackets and shit. Yep. If the dog grabs material and just starts pulling, he's not hurting the guy, So I want to teach the dog to find me in the suit, which hurts, but you can feel it. So like when that dog starts to get ready to let go, you'll feel a little bit of typewritering. You'll be pulsing in the jaw, and you can feel him kind of backing out and not countering in as much and things like that. So you get a feel for it as a decoy, years of experience wise. But so then as soon as he lets go, similarly, I'll have a clicker in my hand, I'll mark it, or I'll have the handler say yes, and I'll feed it back to him and reward him with getting another grip. At that point, the dog is exhausted, so you're probably only going to get maybe half a dozen quick reps in. But so I'll give him a little bit of stimulation, have the handler, tell him to out again, nice and calm, give him a regrip, and so I'm rewarding the dog of letting go by giving him a regrip. So it's not that the game's over and I'm taking away from you what you want 9 seconds into it, which is going to create a bunch of problems. And so it's really simple stuff, but it takes there's a fair bit of nuance. The decoy has to be pretty skilled to understand how to get that out of the dog and bring the handler in and get the handler to handle the dog exactly how you want them to in that environment. And it really needs to be driven by the decoy, not the handler, because everything about where that dog's mind is at by what his mouth is doing on you.
Michael and I were discussing yesterday a video series, basically me filming him almost losing his life. Can we get him down to your facility in a dog
100%.
suit? Yes!
100%. Yeah.
Michael, we'll go base jumping. I'm going to take him base jumping. Well, unfortunately, his parents might have listened to the episode, so we might have to say we're going on a field trip.
Vacation, let's call it.
So we got base jumping on our video series. Are you down to be just fucking mauled in a dog suit? The lightest dog suit possible so you can feel the dog and train
As long as it doesn't actually hurt me, then yeah.
How about if there's a
33%?
Yeah, injured. I meant injured,
right.
yeah.
What if there's a 33% chance that it might? Is that okay?
That's 1/3. That's quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, like me picking the right dog is important. A seasoned dog that isn't, doesn't have a 12-inch long muzzle with, that could do like tendon damage even through a suit.
That'd be nice.
I wouldn't use one of those dogs.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we had base jumping. One of the other episodes he and I did, we were talking about the shocking statistics of 80% of men think they could land a commercial airliner. And so I got to get him. And he was like, yeah, I could do it.
No, I didn't say it with that much confidence.
The fuck you didn't. I said, do you think you could? And he goes, yeah. So I'm going to find a simulator. We're going to film that for sure. But that's more just entertainment.
Yeah.
I
think
really
you should use the real thing. Oh, God. If you're that confident.
So then, of course, I pulled up a cockpit view of an A380 or just your normal one. I'm like, where would you start on the switches?
Yeah.
People have no fucking clue what is up there.
Well, I think there's a similar statistic, maybe even higher, of most grown men that think they can fight.
Yeah.
That's
true.
And it's the standard, like, no, when I go to this place, when I see red, it's the I see red.
type player.
Yeah, most people don't even know that they can't fight. They think they can, and I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. But that is going to be a great video. Him just, I'm assuming, just fucking wadding up an airliner in a simulator, the screen just going black. But I really want to see the last minute, right before the ground. I think it's going to be great.
Do you think the same thing about helicopters? You fly helicopters.
Yeah.
Right?
Helicopters seem way more complicated for some reason.
Yeah. It's the same process, right? Like,
yeah, the controls are a little bit different, and I would say
seems more touchy.
They're more involved.
Yeah.
But the avionics, let alone just, you got to get the airplane configured properly.
Yeah.
I was asking, well, so how would you put the wheels down? He couldn't even find it. It's like, there's things that people forget. They think they're just going to get up there and navigate it down. But I think that'd be a great video.
Yeah.
If I can get him hanging off the edge of the Perrine Bridge in Twin Falls, just interviewing him about his thoughts in the moment, maybe.
Push him.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's going to have to go on his own. I'll let you count down from whatever you want. He'd be like 996, 900.
I feel like you just have to get it over with.
And then a dog suit. I think we have the
trifecta.
first 3 videos of a great video series. I think it would crush.
I think
What are you going to call it?
I don't know. Hopefully, like Michael gets fucked up, or you know.
Michael almost dies.
We'll do it. What would you say is the most impressive dog breed, and why is your answer miniature dachshund?
Well, mostly because you have one.
God, he's a little fucking asshole, but I love him so much.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I get asked a lot, what your favorite breed is. I don't really have one. Obviously, I work with Malinois and Shepherds predominantly, but I've seen some really remarkable dogs in every breed, and I've also seen very poor examples in every breed, even in Malinois and Shepherds and you name it. So, what I will say is, I do have, I would say, a very healthy appreciation for function. It doesn't really matter what the function is, as long as the dog can do something that we can't, and they can augment our lives in whatever capacity, whether it's a seeing eye dog to a rat terrier to a fucking herding dog. Of course, I'm a little biased. I've also seen so many remarkable things from Malinois and Shepherds.
They are an amazing species.
Yeah. Are there dogs that can do certain things that they can do better than them? Yes. But in every case that I've seen, that's the only thing they can do at all. Everything else, I mean, there are, some hunting dogs that can bite harder. Yeah. Or kill things faster or damage more, but not by much. Some dogs are faster. Some dogs are a little more athletic. Some dogs are maybe cognitively a little more advanced and can learn a little faster, some of the border collies. But for a utilitarian dog, if I was, if it's Last of Us or Zombie Apocalypse, like 1,000%, it's a 65-pound Malinois that's well-trained would be my go-to dog.
So not a miniature dachshund.
For companionship, yes.
And judgment.
Yeah.
God, Leah weighed him the other day because she's convinced he's losing. I swear to God, this dog has already got her figured out.
Yeah, he probably does.
He will just sit there and just make some noises by his food. And she'll ask me, when did you feed him? Like 20 minutes ago. He's fucking working you right now.
Yeah. Well, so right there, the second he stops doing it, that's when you feed him.
Yeah. But he also just ate. It's like, motherfucker, you're just trying to work mom. Yeah. So she weighs him. He's 12.5 pounds. He is the most judgmental dog ever. He'll just sit there and he hears everything. And I feel like he understands and just in his head goes, no. But
how old is he?
One,
yeah.
Actually, I think he might turn 1 this week.
Oh, wow.
And we're not arguing. We're discussing whether or not to have a birthday party. And I'm like, Leah, the dog doesn't know that it's his birthday. Yeah. We need to do it. It's also the first dog she's ever had.
Really?
I couldn't believe it either.
Wow.
Apparently she had some hamsters when she was young.
Yeah.
But the first dog she's ever had, she was a little trepidatious and he's a little pocket weight. Yeah, he goes everywhere in a little satchel.
What, can you walk me through the mindset or the mental process as to why that breed?
So my daughter has a miniature dachshund. So I've been around them since probably 2008. Dude, they're just like the coolest dog. They're so loving and affectionate. If you're their people, they hate you if you're not their person, and you cannot get them to stop barking.
Yeah. I will say that breed and mini corgis are very popular ranch dogs in Texas.
He has no idea that he is 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
He will charge vehicles. He will charge people. He'll go after but he'll approach bigger dogs. I just really like their personalities. Yeah. They're cool as shit. I fell in love with them when it was my daughter's. When I got divorced, I lost custody of my dog. Yeah. And so I don't even remember how Leah and I were talking about. Oh, I remember why. We had a goofy conversation about vision boards, of which I don't have one. Yeah. But she asked me what would be on it. I said, probably a miniature dachshund and a helicopter.
And I have both.
Yeah. So I accomplished both. And I haven't yet, though, flown with him. That's the next one. So let me run this by you, because this is the guy who type rated me in the helicopter has done some work with dogs. This is what he recommended to expose them. So, and this part I have done. I've taken Javelin to the helicopter and he's sniffed around it and been inside of it, totally turned off, just getting comfortable with what it is. Then the guy said, basically have my wife there, but turn the helicopter on and just sit there at idle for like a minute the first time, and then take him out of the helicopter. Probably do that 2 or 3 times just to get used to the noise. And we do have the Ear Pro for him. Then when you're ready, start it, hover for 2 minutes, set it back down, and let him out. And the whole time kind of just watching the dog's behavior, make sure he's not fully tail tucked, all that stuff. But at some point in that, he'll kind of just relax, and then you should be good to go with exposure to the helicopter. Is that reasonable?
It is. I would add one key component to it, though.
Okay.
In keeping in tradition with the A plus B equals C, or making certain contextual associations, obviously he loves food, right?
Oh, yes.
So how far is the helicopter normally from where you guys actually live?
10 minutes.
Okay. It's a pain in the ass, but what I would do is start feeding him in the helicopter.
Okay.
You know, at a minimum.
Like right when he gets into it, or like maybe when the evolution is ending?
No, I mean, at first, if he's already been there and had some exposure, I would say just now bring him in there and set the bowl of food. I don't know how big it is inside there, but just feed him in there and then leave.
He's with me all the time anyway, so it's not like as a normal errand.
Yeah.
We could definitely do that.
Yeah, so I would just start doing that. Do it for maybe a week before you ever turn it on.
Okay.
And then I would recreate that same process, and then when you're feeding him, turn it on while he's in there.
While he's eating?
While he's eating, yeah.
Okay. We also have a set of doggles for him, which is completely unnecessary, and it looks like about the size of a G.I. Joe set. But how can you not?
Yeah. It's got a tactical vest.
He does. I'm not even sure he can see out of those things because they're like... The guy who sent me the vest sent me the whole thing, so...
Have you put the earmuffs on him?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's fine with them?
He doesn't seem to give a shit.
Yeah, so I would...
I just put him over the top of his ears. Do you have to like stuff his ears up inside of there, or can you just...
You should. I mean, if you think about it almost from like, think of it like a swimming mask.
Okay, so get him up inside of there?
Yeah, I mean, even just covering it's better than nothing at all, but the most protection is going to be where the entire ear is stuffed in there. You do want them big enough to where it's not like crumpling their ear.
His head's not that big.
Yeah. But I would make that as part of your routine is put them on them before you even get to it.
Yeah.
Walk them in there, feed them with those on,
okay,
and then do it for a handful of sessions, and then start it while he's in there, because there's less, from his perspective, less chaotic, overwhelming stimulation by already being in it when it started than walking up to it while it's on.
How would you expose him to actually going for a flight?
I mean, similarly, I would probably start it with walking him in there, feeding him, starting it up while he's already in there, and then flying. That way you're not overstimulating him on the way there, so that now when he's in there, he's already a little bit frazzled. He's already in there. You start it up. I would feed it, start it up, maybe even shut it down. I don't know how long that process is or how big of a pain in the ass it is, but shut it down and then bring him out after it's shut down, and kind of build him up to where you're walking him there while it's turning, if that's something you ever would do with him.
You could. I just want him to be comfortable. And then when would you take the food out of that and just
just like once it seems like he could give a shit. You know, if that's the first time, great. He may not give a shit. How is he? Like, you take him to like Home Depot or
he just hounds around. He just sniffs and just cruises.
Do you ever see the the apprehension kind of claws?
He just goes.
Yeah,
fucking psychopath.
He's probably not going to give that much of a shit about it then.
Okay.
Like if he'll walk in and out of powered doors, and I love Home Depot because there's people like ripping sheets of plywood and kids walking around with ice cream cones.
He crushes like the Salt Lake City airport. Doesn't give a stuff. Like we have traveled with him a lot.
It's probably not going to be that much of a challenge for him then. Because that's the thing. You probably saw dogs jumping out of planes, and
I was one of the first people to do a tandem with the dog.
Yeah,
the dog didn't enjoy it as much as I did. I feel like it wanted to kill me.
But the thing with that though is the dog at least is not rationalizing that you're jumping out of a plane.
Yes.
Right. So to him, it's windy. Yeah. It's loud, and there's a feeling of weightlessness. Same of going in a fast elevator if a dog's never been in one. But
he didn't enjoy the cameraman that was buzzing around.
Yeah,
he was locked on.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. A lot of prey drive stimulation.
Yeah, just you could see the head in the film. You're like, I didn't notice it at the time. I was like, dude.
Yeah.
He was eyeballing you. Even in free fall, he was eyeballing shit.
Yeah. It's
okay.
Fun,
because that's my goal.
Yeah.
To be able to just crush Montana.
Yeah. So I would do the first few trips where you're bringing him in before you start it up, after you've been feeding him in there a little while. But again, it sounds like between how food motivated he is and how environmentally sound he is everywhere else, it's probably not going to be a huge challenge. Where I would be more concerned and say maybe baby step that a little more spread out is if taking him to Home Depot, he's, spooked by the doors opening or so if
he's at the coffee shop all the time cruising around, we take him everywhere, and
because it's kind of all the same thing, again, the environmental exposure component to especially working dogs is the most common reason I'll wash a dog out. Is the double-edged sword of Malinois and bite dogs are that edge that gives them such a great advantage on being suspicious enough and kind of civilly aggressive enough to be effective in the field. If there's even just a little bit too much of that defensiveness edge, a lot of times it will manifest in environmental nerves being a little weak, and they're suspicious of everything, not just people. It's what the fuck is that plastic bag blowing across the parking lot doing? And they're, doing that kind of shifty, like those are the kind of things I hate to see. And because the problem is if the dog isn't bomb-proof in that way, then who knows what you're going to get into environmentally in a real-world operation. And if the dog is spooked, then they're not going to do their job. So.
It just seems like they'd be constantly stressed out.
Yeah, they are.
Which would, having had some stress in my life before, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
How could you expect them to do their job if they felt that way?
They can't. And so, like I said, that's the most common reason why we'll wash dogs out is because of that.
Are you aware that on the internet, you are considered to be the originator of the Epstein didn't kill himself?
I am. It's incorrect. Yeah, that's a nice segue.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Guys, I forget how. I knew we were going to sit down and talk, and I was like, I wonder what Mike is known for on the internet. It was
of all fucking things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
We might need to pull this up and play it.
Yeah. He's already working on it. Look at that.
Oh, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious when I saw that segment.
Well, it's. I've shared it before, but there's kind of a funny story behind it in that it wasn't a pre-planned thing. It was. I remember hearing Rogan actually talking about the controversy about it.
About Epstein killing himself?
Yeah, or not killing himself, and
so you're a betting man. Where would you put your money?
Not killing himself.
I would have to agree.
Yeah. To me, it's
like, come on, people.
Yeah, it's insulting, frankly. But God knows what.
How can you scroll back up? How could you just blurt something out? That is not an accurate representation of what happened.
Yeah, I love that it's blurting.
Why are you on a real estate ad?
We have to play this before it.
We have to?
Well, I couldn't find it on YouTube.
I've not seen blurted out before, actually.
I think I would say you just added it.
If you see the coverage and you decide I want one of these dogs, either buy a finished trained, fully trained and finished dog from a professional, or just don't get one at all. And Epstein didn't kill himself. All right.
Oh, Jesse Waters.
Yeah. So two things, I guess. One, it was just becoming a thing in the news where people were kind of debating it. And they sent a car for me because that's the Fox Dallas studio or whatever. And so I was just in the car, like scrolling on my phone on the way there, and I saw a few different clips of it. Fast forward to the interview. I like Jesse Waters, but especially at that time, it was the Waters World on Saturday episodes. Okay. And to me, it felt like he was being kind of a dick during the interview. Like he was asking kind of silly questions, like, just like, do dogs lick your ass if they're covered in peanut butter? It was that kind of stuff. It was like,
well, hold on. What's the answer to that?
That's can neither confirm nor deny, but there's a high probability.
Hold on. Remember the video series we talked, and the person we're going to use. Yeah. Fuck yes, Michael. Fourth video.
I've already tested this one out.
Okay.
What just happened?
He dog sits javelin when we're gone, so it's like, oh, that's why we're short on almond butter when we get home.
Why is the crunchy peanut butter gone?
I think dogs would eat peanut butter anywhere, you fucking psychos.
Yeah. There's a contingent of the population, I think, that's into that, but it seemed like he wasn't taking it serious, and the reason he brought me on there was it was right after the al-Baghdadi raid where the dog didn't get killed, but
He
the
clacked
dude,
himself off, right?
Yeah, injured the dog, and so my intent was twofold. The kind of PSA that I threw out at the end was pre-planned because stuff like that typically will have a lot of people that don't do any research, want to go get one of these dogs and buy a puppy, and a good working puppy makes a horrible house pet, and so I wanted to kind of convey that message, but also just highlight how incredible the dogs are and what they do for us. And it just seemed like he was kind of scoffing at the whole thing. Like he was making more jokes about dogs, generally speaking. And it kind of irritated me. So it was a complete off the cuff. I just threw it in there as just kind of a fucking with him thing. And to Fox's credit, though, that was pre-recorded like 2 days in advance, and they kept it in there. So
That's awesome.
When I said it, I assumed that they wouldn't keep it in there, and they did. And so I watched it, and it's like a Saturday night at 7 or whatever, and like 9 seconds after it aired, dude, my phone did not stop fucking blowing up for probably a month. And it was like people that I hadn't heard from in 20 years. You know, like this one guy was like, yeah, I'm up here in like a Buffalo Wild Wings in North Dakota, and there's this table behind me watching your video over and over, laughing their asses off. And it was like a dude I hadn't talked to since high school. So yeah, I mean, of all the things that I've done since I've been out of the Navy, the fact that one is kind of the lead charge on Wikipedia is a little frustrating.
That subject matter won't die either.
No.
It is, I don't know why. I want the current administration to be successful. I want our country to be as secure and as safe and as strong as possible. But I also think we got to be able to call out the bullshit when bullshit's happening. And there was a large promise on a lot of things. And it seems like they're kind of fucking about.
Yeah.
Why not release what you said you're going to release? If there's some shit in there that's really hard to explain, take your time to explain it. That's part of the platform that he ran on.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it is frustrating to have a list of things that are going to happen day one. Obviously there's rhetoric there that I think anybody with a half a brain can understand. It's not going to happen the first days.
Like the bullshit, like look at these binders we gave to these social media influencers. Like, can you please treat the American people with at least some level of fucking respect?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was poorly handled, and it didn't reveal anything. It was all stuff that had already been largely known.
What makes the most sense to you about what he was and what he was doing? Because I have a theory. I bet our theories are very similar.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, I think that if you look at his background and how he amassed the wealth that he did based on that background, that doesn't add up. So obviously there's something else there that is completely uncovered, or covered rather. I think that he got himself into a network of very powerful people and provided a service and recorded it and blackmailed them. And made a shit ton of money. I think most of it actually just came from, and I do think, like, I'm not a huge, New World Order Illuminati guy or anything, but I do think that for whatever fucking reason that there's a higher probability of pedophilia in elite circles of power and wealth. I don't know if it's like the A-list actor that, gets so much ass that he gets tired of it and now needs something else that pushes the envelope. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it seems like there's a higher percentage of people in those circles that engage in that kind of stuff, including our own U.S. government. And I think that that's probably why you don't see a lot of it being released, is that there are people that are currently in positions of power and influence that are probably on that list. But I think he did two things. I think he mostly made money in providing a service for people at a very high level for child sex trafficking. And I think whether or not he actually videotaped it and blackmailed him, maybe not. But I think there's an understanding that he knew all of the people that were doing it. And there's enough of those people with enough power and influence to say, I don't want that fucking guy going anywhere near a courtroom knowing what he knows.
I could see him being loosely tied to or directly tied to our intelligence apparatus as well.
Yeah.
I think that largely the same thing, that there's no way that he was operating at that level. Just in the number of times that he bounced up against law enforcement and was kind of set back, I think that he was providing not only that service, But I think if he was tied to the intelligence community, he was doing so to people that they wanted that service tied to, so they could then have leverage upon them.
Yeah.
I think that explains to me his ability to operate largely what it seems like in plain sight.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
And people are like, it's the CIA. I'm like, listen, the CIA is an umbrella. There's a bunch of people inside of the CIA, and if let's say there was a half a dozen of them that were involved in that in some way. Is that the CIA, I guess, because they're working under that charter, but let's not confuse the organization with individuals. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just, it's too weird. I actually could see the Diddy stuff, right? Well, maybe innocent until, proven guilty. 10,000 metric gallons of lube is odd. Yeah. But I mean,
who doesn't have that?
But I could also see the same type of situation being at the very least allowed, and if I get really gnarly about people's intentions, you could see being facilitated from those in power for this same reason, leverage, and then you can control whatever it is whatever world or ecosystem that they're in. Yeah, I could see that.
Well, especially in the entertainment industry, where let's be honest, the people who are famous a lot of times aren't the most talented. Especially in music. It's whoever what label props up and creates and wants to. Take Britney Spears as an example.
She's one of the greatest artists of our time.
Well, we can agree to disagree, maybe.
Do you ever search over to her Instagram to just take a quick look at what somebody struggling with mental health looks like?
Yeah, if I'm having too good of a day and things are too balanced, I'll take a look at what she has going on. But
it actually makes me feel sorry for people who grew up that way and became that famous that early.
Yeah, I agree. And it seems like it happens to most of them. But I think in the entertainment industry, because not that there's not a ton of money in politics and everything else, but because it's that's the only thing. They're not creating policy. They're not, doing contracts with foreign governments. There's a lot less intricacies, I think, in entertainment. And so it's pretty cut and dry. It's all about money and how to make it. And if you can control the people who are making a lot of it and get them in contracts that are horrible because they don't really have a choice. To me that makes more sense. Yeah. But in that exact same kind of framework of it's a broader scale of using uncomfortable and illegal things to leverage people into just making them do whatever you want.
Somewhere out there's a Rolodex of some pretty gnarly shit.
For sure.
I hope it sees the light of day.
I hope so too.
I actually don't care if it fucking nearly imploded our government. I'd rather see our government have a hard restart by ejecting those people, entities, organizations, than for this just to exist and never be addressed.
I agree. To me, it's kind of the same thing with tariffs and stock market and everything else right now. Is that if it takes a hard, reset that is painful for a period of time, but that gets us back to kind of on the right track, I'd be all for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think continuing on the path that we were on was going to end up being extremely painful. And I think the path and I'm not an expert on tariffs and, geopolitical events or any of that stuff. And I'm aware of the stock market. I quite frankly don't understand how it works. And I'm glad that there's people out there who are experts in that, but there's going to be pain involved somewhere. I would rather, just my personal theory in life, I'd rather take it up front for a little bit more of an enjoyable tail end than wait for the destruction on the tail end.
I agree. I don't know why so many people are so short-sighted that way. Like to watch the stock market as an example, and one bad day and people are screaming that the economy is collapsing, and and it's like, and then the next day it goes up 1,200 points, and it's like you have to see the bigger picture. And I do. I admittedly too am not. An economics professor, but at the same time, it's like tariffs seem pretty cut and dry to me, and that like if you're going to charge us, it's only fair to charge you back, or we both say, hey, neither of us are going to charge anything. Like, what's complicated about that?
That is the part of the conversation I've seen missed by a lot of people. They'll say, well, tariffs, this idea of using tariffs is a horrible thing. And I'll ask them, are you aware of the number of tariffs that are currently on U.S. goods? And if that was such a horrible thing, why did we accept that?
Yeah.
So if it's bad, if we tariff other countries, and again, I'm not an economics perspective or a professor either. If it's bad that we're applying tariffs, why isn't it bad that other countries are applying tariffs to us?
Agreed. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, and I don't know why that's lost in the conversation. I don't know if it's a great way to recalibrate again, because I don't understand the depth and complexity of what's the long-term effects are going to be. But if they were okay for other countries to do to us, why is it the worst thing on earth that we're doing them to other countries as well?
Yeah, I think it's because of that short-sightedness, and that in the interim, it could make people lose jobs, or could see a huge spike in normal day-to-day household goods, or make vehicles now twice as expensive, for a period of time. I do think one misstep is the kind of lack of understanding from a business owner's perspective to say anybody who has things manufactured somewhere else to just say, hey, we're going to do tariffs, starts in 30 days. If you don't like it, make it here. It's like, you have to know it's not that easy to like.
They don't. I had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
As if because a policy wants to shift back production to the U.S., that overnight they're going to find people who are skilled enough, or that the materials are here, or that the factory is here. It's probably a 5 to 10 year process. Should we be heading down that pipeline? I think we should, for self-sustainability. To think it's going to happen overnight is psychotic.
Yeah, I mean, it can't happen,
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think that frustrates at least me, and I think most people that are for that long-term train of thinking. But there has to be an implementation process that's smarter about going about that, or you're just going to put everybody out of business. Because the reality of it is that there's a reason why things are made other places. So to just say to company X who's making product Y in China or wherever, let's say it's Canada. To just say, well, make it in America if you don't want the tariffs. It's like, even with the tariffs, it's probably still cheaper.
Yeah.
Or even, it may not even be feasible for me to make product Y in America and charge what I'm charging, or even if you were to charge whatever you had to, like, now you're not selling it because it's so far overpriced that nobody's going to buy it, And so to me, it like, I don't know if, we give our politicians too much credit to think that they're thinking from that perspective, but it doesn't seem like they are in a lot of cases.
I think it's the talking points that they run on. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, spelled LMNT, but said Element. Man, I have been working with these guys for quite some time. What is Element? Well, it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. It is electrolytes. It is salts. It is your best weapon against being depleted with all of those things, especially if you live an active lifestyle. I'm getting ready to go to my wife's Jiu-Jitsu seminar in Costa Rica. I have a 1-gallon Ziploc bag full of these bad boys. I would take the sparkling ones, but they're harder to travel with. Perhaps I can talk Rob into shipping some down there. But if you like salt, if you like recovering, if you like being hydrated, if you like having electrolytes, head over to drinkelement.com/clearedhot. I'll talk about the specific offer they have over there, but let me just give you an idea of what they offer. Citrus, watermelon, raspberry, grapefruit, orange. There's an unflavored if you want. They make some spicy ones that I've talked about. Mango chili. That is a great one for a margarita. For your hot chocolates or coffees, there's a chocolate salt and a chocolate caramel, variety packs. Then, of course, like I mentioned, they have their new 16-ounce beverages. They're ready to go. Citrus, grapefruit, watermelon, black cherry lime, and, of course, a variety pack as well. These things are unbelievable. The difference between when I train hard or I'm just active and have one of these beverages, if not two, depending on where I'm at, the climate, the temperature, how much I'm sweating, the activity, is unbelievable. I feel it in my joints. I feel it in my recovery. I feel it in my ability to think. The system is just humming at a more optimal range when you're making sure that you're hydrated and your salt and electrolyte balance are where they should be. Like I mentioned, if you head over to drinkelement.com/clearedhot, which I'll link directly in the show notes, you're going to get a free Element sample pack with any purchase. Again, at drinkelement.com/clearedhot. And don't forget to try the 16-ounce sparkling Element electrolyte water. Like I said, 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, 60 milligrams magnesium. These things are awesome. It's my go-to after jiu-jitsu. Oftentimes, there's one in my bag. Drinkelement.com/clearedhot. Don't mess around with your salt and your electrolytes. Stay in the game. Back to the show. When you're on a campaign trail, I think you can be loose and fast, right? You're in fifth gear. I think the wheels of bureaucracy, especially given the size that we have, you're not even in first gear. It's like a tenth of a percentage of first gear.
Yeah.
So you can talk fast, but it moves slow.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And over promising and under delivering, I think, is a problem. I mean, take the Israel stuff, the Ukraine war, similarly, I mean, I remember hearing, there was a hard line not long ago of saying, hey, if all of the hostages aren't released by this date, it's going to be hell to pay. Like, where's the hell being paid?
Yeah.
Because there's still like 50 or 60 of them. We haven't done anything about it. Why not? Like, and to me, like, you can't say shit like that and then not do something.
I mean, you have kids. It's the same experience as my own. As a parent, go ahead and play that game.
Yeah.
Play if you do this, I'm going to do this, and then they do that, and you don't. And your baseline and template is just constantly shifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a good approach, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for carrying a big stick and making those threats, but you have to follow through with them, you know.
And only make the threat if you're actually going to be able or willing to follow through with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, pick a different tool.
Yeah.
I
mean, I feel that way about all foreign policy, like whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan. I mean, anything we've been involved in, I think, if you look at it almost like a street fight, if you walk by Black Rifle down the street and there's a fucking bar brawl going on, like, you can choose to walk in or you can keep walking. If you walk in, I don't care how well intentioned you are or how you conduct yourself, you're going to create enemies, no matter what. Even if you do nothing, you're going to create enemies because you were there and stood by. Now, granted, even if you walk by, you may create enemies, but to me, like, I'm only walking in that place if I have to. And I think you can look at that micro example and apply it to the macro of saying, we're not going to send our guys anywhere unless it's absolutely necessary. But if we do, I'm going to let the gloves come completely off, and we're going to go, full Tecumseh Sherman, Civil War, Atlanta, burn the entire fucking place to the ground and wipe you off the map. And then we're going to leave, and the next person that fucks with us, we're going to do the exact same thing. So you can just not fuck with us, and we won't mess with you at all. Or if you do it, then that's what's going to happen. And I think, as maybe oversimplified as that seems, I do think some of life's most complex problems actually require the simplest solutions, and I think that's one of them.
The simplest solutions are the ones that are most likely to work.
Yeah.
I mean, look at military operations. You want to have not a guaranteed failure, but a hard time, make a really complex plan that has moving pieces and assets everywhere. And let me know how that goes for you.
Yeah.
Or the really simple plan.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to walk there.
Yeah. I think jiu-jitsu is the same thing.
Oh, man. My game is I so deeply appreciate people's passion for the sport and how they want to go down these rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I would like to shave away absolutely everything that just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, it's to the your own game point. It's like, pushing 50, a number of injuries. Like, I'm not doing flying arm bars and inverted octopus guards and, all these different fucking things that, like, I can't even get my body to do that, let alone be good at it.
But I do love the fact that people go down those rabbit holes. Like, nothing but respect. It just doesn't work for me in my station in life. So, old man jitsu, I'm going to lay on you. Yeah. And I want to have good fundamentals.
Yeah. Do you have either a most successful or a favorite submission?
I mean, I'll take what people give me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
guess, do you have one that's the most satisfying? Michael?
Cross collar choke, you think?
That's probably what you've got me with the most, which isn't saying much. But
it's a low bar, is that what you're saying?
It's a very low bar.
It's a good one, though. Cross collar choke is just a good one. And it's fundamental.
Yeah.
You can hit it from guard. You can hit it from mount. I guess you could. I've never tried it from side control. That would be weird.
What about a shirtless meth head?
Shirtless meth head, I probably would not engage with because I don't want to get herpes or any other blood fucking related, transmissible disease. I would probably, you're going to have to go with air choke or a blood choke at that point. So probably take their back and just choke them unconscious.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want to touch meth heads.
Yeah. Are you mostly a gi guy, I assume?
I do both. I have found, though, that most people wear clothes.
Yeah.
So there is a large level of applicability in the gi. I don't think you should rely specifically on the collar itself. But up here, I tell you what, 6 months out of the year, people are wearing a gi top.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of their gi tops have zippers too.
Yeah. And hoods. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's an argument. I think both are great. I was actually talking with Rogan about this years ago because I was asking him because he has he is a black belt, but I guess he was given a black belt by, I want to say it was one of the Machados. I want to say Jean-Jacques, but I don't want to misspeak. And then he was given a black belt by Eddie Bravo. I didn't realize, and maybe now, maybe it's changed, or maybe just both of those coaches wanted to just reward him for the time and effort that they put in. Because I think if you're a black belt, you're just a black belt, you know. But I was asking him how he trains. He said he trains both, but the way he focuses on not relying on the gi is he'll roll with no gi grips, even in the gi.
Yeah.
Which is it's a cool thing to do. It actually saves your fingers quite a bit.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'll grab the fuck out of somebody's pants if I need to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
well, you mentioned Eddie Bravo. I think the EBI not platform, but like the gi pants and rash guard top is one of my favorite ways to train for that reason.
Well, and it lets you. So, Mike, would you say fair to say that most of our classes are gi classes? He offers a no gi class, but at open mat afterwards, after a class, you can easily go back and forth. You just pop the top off, roll with the no gi guys, put it back on, you're back rolling. So I think there's a good level of applicability there.
Yeah, I think jeans and a t-shirt is what you're going to run into a lot too. So
have you ever been shown how to pull up the back of the fucking shirt?
I have,
and then cross collar with that. It's like a garrote wire across their neck.
Yeah, I have. I would say I wouldn't like in a real world scenario. I don't know that I would try to employ it. I haven't done it enough to feel competent enough to actually apply it. But
in a real world scenario, I would never want to jump guard and be on bottom with somebody like that. I would probably arm drag and try to get to their back and choke them unconscious that way.
Yeah.
At least that point all their tools in another direction and be behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, closing the distance and either, for me, I'm a huge fan of the Daniel Cormier, I think probably is the best example of doing it at a high level in world-class competition, which is the high crotch, like tilt-a-whirl takedown. I'm sure there's a real name for it that I didn't just make up, but I feel
like what you named it is what it should be. I mean, tilt-a-whirl.
Yeah, I mean, it should be like that weird imbalance of just, and not like a collegiate wrestling high crotch where it's almost fireman's carry like, but just getting in deep right up under their hips and just lifting straight up, and that weird pendulum of imbalance. Just like to see it, it looks like you're body slamming somebody. But all you did was pick them a foot off the ground and their own leverage, and on concrete, like that's probably going to end most fights. If it doesn't, then I'm jumping on them, taking their back, and same thing, But obviously, if you run into a good striker or whatever, then an arm drag or a body lock or some sort of other takedown that is maybe a little more controlled.
Running away.
Yeah,
just walk away.
Or
nice little tool. Yeah. Would you rather be shot or stabbed?
I guess it depends on stabbed with what and where.
That thing.
Fuck, man.
I don't
probably shot, honestly.
Yes, I agree. First off, when people ask me that, I'm like, is there an option C where neither of those are? But as a guy who has been shot, I am way more scared of knife injuries than I am of I'm assuming that the person sucks at marksmanship and I'm going to catch a zinger. I would rather have that than get filleted.
If it's a through and through shot, hands down.
Yeah.
If it's fragmenting bone, I don't know. That's a tough.
If it's a trained marksman, maybe I'll take the knife. But at close distance,
between the eyes, I'm going to take the knife.
Yeah.
But, I mean, knives are horrible, and the incidents for infection and like sepsis style infection are way higher with a knife. Like you're almost guaranteed to get fucked up from the aftermath of it. Because nobody's knife is clean. And
Well, I mean, I think meth heads have autoclaves. You know what I mean? They really are
walking around with tattoo style cleanliness.
Yeah. It's a wild world that we live in. Yeah. How much longer are you going to stick with the dog stuff? We're talking a little bit. You don't have to talk about where you were thinking about maybe lifting and shifting, but we're both almost pushing 50 at this point. What do you got? What do you got planned for the? Let's assume we're both going to obviously live to 100. So the second half.
It may be 200 by the time we get there,
Would you want to live for 200 years?
Maybe. I think it depends on...
functionality.
Functionality, for sure. Yeah. If I was as functional as I am now, absolutely.
Same here. If I'm in the wheelchair, pudding phase of my life?
Yeah.
No.
I wouldn't. That begs a broader question, which is probably a Black Mirror episode or something similar, is that almost kind of the, what was the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger back where he goes to Mars? Total Recall.
Yes.
So imagine a scenario where you get to 70, 80, whatever, you're basically an invalid, but you're still cognitively with it enough to realize that your life sucks. And you have the option to basically go in a matrix-style vegetative state and go to any period in time, be whoever you want, and do whatever you want, but it's in a dreamlike state where it feels real. Would you do? And you can do it indefinitely. Like you could go live in the 50s as a teenager driving a fucking 57 Chevy, or I mean, whatever, Roman Empire. I mean,
Would you know it's fake?
I would say no. So you can now spend eternity wherever you want.
Fuck, man. I mean, this comes to deeper questions like what is life?
Yeah.
What is existence? Which
Well,
because I'm dumb enough, I don't like to think about those things because
Well, I think for me, the biggest hurdle with that is what comes after. Like what actually comes after, because
Yeah.
what are you missing out on? You don't know.
yeah, in that experience, if you chose that would be about that would be a specific choice about just yourself. That would be about you or I or the person making that choice about an experience for only them. And I don't know what comes after. I mean, I would put myself as agnostic. I'm not an atheist and I'm not religious. I'm open to both. I don't fucking know, man. Yeah. So I've never, religion has never stuck with me. I've been exposed to it. It's never stuck. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the meaning of life. I don't know the definition of existence. And I mean, are we sitting here at this table or are we in a fucking simulation theory? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know though. The way that I have come to think about my own personal life as far as what I want to try to do or who I want to be is I want to be able to be a positive impact on the world around me, the people and place that I am. You can't do that if you take that choice because it's all fake. You might feel like you can, but the reality is you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Well,
So I would land on probably not making that choice. I would rather live a shorter amount of time, but actually try to impact people's lives as opposed to extend my own personal life and live in a simulation forever.
Yeah. I think what complicates that decision-making process is assuming that physically you're at a point where you're basically useless anyway.
Yeah.
And so to your loved ones, you would be dying because you would go in a fucking warehouse somewhere and sit in a pod.
Yeah.
And just be technically still alive. But, so to me that, like, obviously I wouldn't do that now, but you get to a point where you're in a nursing home, like you're in hospice, you have months to live for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But they have the ability to just keep your brain alive and let you go through that experience.
I think part of being a human is knowing that it's going to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I'm functioning as an idiot, like literally a functioning idiot. But I think if you knew you could do that, I think it would change the way people viewed their life.
Yeah.
Because they could say, "I'll just take care of," you know what I mean? I'm not going to risk anything. I'll do all the risky shit when it's not real, when I'm hooked up to the machine.
Yeah.
I think knowing that you have a limited amount of time. Have you ever seen those? I've seen advertisements from. I don't actually have one. Have you ever seen those wall charts that list out the average amount of weeks that a human being lives?
Yeah, it's like 4,000, right?
And people cross them off as they go.
Yeah.
The Stoics thought a lot about mortality. They actually thought it was important to consider your own mortality, and because it will shift the way that you spend the time that you have left, because we don't know. I think if you remove that, I don't know what would happen. My suspicion is some weird shit would happen.
For sure. I think, what begs the question, your statement about part of, the crux really of the human experience is knowing that it's a finite amount of time, is that while, yes, that's absolutely true, it's true because there's no other option.
Yeah.
and so it's like, while that's the human experience, if the human experience evolves to a point where it can now determine whether or not that is actually the human experience or not,
God.
like, it's this weird rabbit hole. It's like space, it's like, it's hard to, like, you really can't wrap your mind around it.
No.
Anyway, I completely deflected from your question.
No, that's okay. I mean, assuming that we don't have that option.
Yeah.
And let's say we're getting ready to go on the second half of the lap of our life.
Yeah, dogs wise, they're something that I'm passionate enough about to where I always want to be doing something with them. Now, even if you were to compare what my life is like day to day now versus, say, 10 years ago, it's quite a bit throttled back in that regard. Like, I'm doing very little travel and working with departments and teaching at conferences, things like that. I do a very, very limited amount of that now compared to, 10 years ago was constant. Same with like selling personal protection dogs or, maintaining the online training. All of those things they have a shelf life, and I don't know how much longer I will do any or all of them. I would say sooner than later, I'll probably get to a point where I'm not doing much of that at all. It'll be kind of a one-off because I want to do it. Maybe a previous protection dog client or a friend of mine wants one, or I just feel like training a dog, or something like that. I will say it is and has been exhausting in some ways because it's kind of like toothpaste out of a tube. Like, you can't really put it back in when you're in the thick of, you train dogs and you sell dogs. Like, it's not a faucet you can turn on and off really, or not very well, especially when that's the main thing that you're doing. And so it's hard to travel. It's hard to take a vacation. You miss things.
Not if you have a miniature dachshund.
That's true. You just take them with you. And,
Pocket wean.
Yeah. We all have one of those.
Two is one is none.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, his is pretty impressive, by the way.
Dude. I honestly have to stop myself from posting pictures of his balls on Instagram, because sometimes he'll stand there and what I want to do is take a picture of something past, but I want to get it through the sack.
Yeah.
People need to understand what he's packing. I mean, Michael, you've seen it in person. It's impressive. If he was a human being, they'd be fucking cantaloupes. The nuts on that guy.
It reminds me of the Christmas Vacation. You ain't seen a set on that one, Clark. Where do you see the set on that one? Yeah. It's well, and I think so often people are not used to seeing them because most dogs are not intact.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dog food company is really kind of the pivot for me because it's more of a traditional business now, which does make it a little less exciting. But as I get older, you can only work dogs in a bite suit for 9 hours straight, several days in a row for so long, and being gone all the time, and juice being worth the squeeze monetarily, working with departments isn't particularly profitable either. Yeah. I do think, especially early on in a training career, it's imperative because it gives you a ton of experience and credibility for the other things. But there is a point at which it's like, I don't want to be scrubbing dog shit off of walls when I'm 60, and slinging dogs out of the back of a truck, driving through the night to deliver dogs to people and stuff. That gets to a point where I just don't really want to do that at that level anymore. So yeah, really, I think the dog food is kind of the big pivot. And the other things that I have going on, whether it's the show or some of the protection dogs, the online training, I still obviously oversee the whole Warrior Dog Foundation, and so that's something I'll do, and basically until they don't need me to. I'm kind of keyholed into that. I can't really evict 30 fucking retired dogs, So as long as people want to support it and there's a need for it, I'll keep doing it. I would love to get the federal government and Eli Crane actually and his crew have been really, really good about trying to jumpstart a federal funding program for retired working dogs. I'd love to get to a point where my organization and the handful of others just like it don't need to exist, because to me that's how it should be. I would rather the U.S. government, in the interim, fund the ones that are doing it via charity right now, but with the end goal being that they build probably regional canine retirement centers and all working dogs that aren't retired to their handlers or fellow unit members can go there and live instead of just being put down, because that's why we exist, is because that's what happens or happened.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah. I mean, it started back in August 2010. Like, it wasn't some grand plan of mine that I thought, I want to start a nonprofit. It was, I was approached by a command with 2 dogs that had both, deployed a number of times. You're probably familiar with them, actually. But yeah, it was like they asked me and, I don't know, 5 or 6 other dudes in a similar scenario of a, dog trainer, purveyor of working dogs, if we would take them. And my first response was no. It was like 2 broken old ass-eater dogs that the handlers can't even take because they're too dangerous to be around their families. What do you want me to do with them? And, a month or 2 goes by and they ask again. And so I was like, well, I can read between the lines on that. Everybody else has said no. So I just said, what's going to happen to these 2 if none of us take them? And they said, well, unfortunately, the operational dogs and handlers have all of our bandwidth. We just don't have the resources to take care of dogs that aren't in the rotation, so we'll probably just euthanize them. And I said, fuck that, send them to me. I'll figure it out, and that opened the floodgates. And, here we are 15, 16 years later, and several hundred dogs from everywhere. I mean, we've taken dogs from Customs, Border Patrol, Secret Service, police departments, all different special operations unit, federal law enforcement, you name it, and these are all dogs, again, that aren't the norm. I would say they're kind of the Hannibal Lecter of the dog world, and that they're ones that the handlers can't take, or in some cases they're not even at their shelf life expiration date. They have bit too many people they weren't supposed to too many times, and
They gave you Biden's dog?
yeah, I would have taken it. I would have loved to have helped him with that. What a fucking mess. Yeah, but
Let's just say I've heard on the streets that he bit a lot more people than
like dozens,
multiple dozens.
Yeah.
Old Commander, I believe his name was.
Yeah. He was a commander or something. Somebody had to run the fucking show. I mean, I can tell you what happened. Like, you can tell by the way he conducts himself that's most people's problems with their dog. When probably the most overused and biggest misconception, I would say, in dog psychology is a dominant alpha protective dog. Very, very few dogs are naturally genetically hardwired to be that way out of the gate. Almost always it's a power vacuum. What they are hardwired to genetically is that if there is nobody running the show, then they know somebody has to, and they will do it. And that's when you have the worst of both worlds. You have a dog who's not hardwired to actually be that way on its own, who's filling a power vacuum. So
Are you saying Commander was running the White House?
100% he was. Yep. He was dragging Joe around by his nuts, his shriveled old bag. That's what happens, So you've got an anxiety-ridden dog that is doing something that they're unqualified for, that they don't want to do. And then that's when you have dogs that are biting everybody for no reason and not paying attention. But
yeah. If you can get the dog food business, right? You're meeting Michael and I were literally having this conversation yesterday about, people, they will write emails in and they ask about stuff. And a lot of the times they ask about, hey, I'm doing this job, but it just doesn't fill my cup. But I think I might love doing this other job. Should I give up what I'm doing that's meeting my economic requirements and pursue my passion? What should I do? My answer is always maybe try to figure out a way to do both. But let's assume you could get the dog business running to a place where it didn't require a lot of your time, whether that be the food, the dogs that you're taking in. What would you do outside of that world? What are you passionate about outside of that world?
Yeah, for me, there's a few things. I know this is kind of the standard answer for a lot of people. I want to travel. I do want to travel.
That's my answer too, man.
There's a lot of the fucking world that I think deserves to be seen that I haven't seen and that I would love to see. For me, the couple of things, business aside, on a personal side, like I wanted my kids to be on their path first. Mm-hmm. Before I do really any of that, because when I go, I want to go for me. I would love to take them to certain places and do family trips that way. But a lot of the places I want to see, I want to go experience and kind of go balls deep into it and really get every drop out of that experience that I can. And so there's a lot of things I would want to do that I just wouldn't feel comfortable taking them on. Outside of that, I do really enjoy jiu-jitsu. I will probably continue to do that until I can't. That only takes so much time, though. And we were talking the other day. I do have a problem with pacing more than I should for where I'm at. But having said that, just my body responds how it does. And like
your body will give you the appropriate
Yeah.
feedback. You're done for the week.
Yeah, it's a good feedback loop for sure. You're not going to do it for a while, whether you like to or not. Yeah. So for me, I like to train like every other day or every couple of days.
Yep.
But anyway, so I really enjoy. I've gotten into speed, frankly, not the drug, but motorcycles and cars. For me, coming from 18 to 30 in the military and doing that, and then spending the next 15 years continuing to kind of scratch that itch from an adrenaline and excitement, dopamine standpoint of, because getting in a bite suit is exciting. Mike will find out here shortly.
Get pumped.
Cujo, sick balls, right?
I feel like we could go POV camera on dog, POV camera on Michael.
We can do both.
And
let's do it.
let's not forget the drone from
The
overhead.
drone, you gotta have a drone. You gotta have a drone for the escape bites.
Yeah.
It's for listen, the people need and want to see this. They don't want to, they need to.
They need
All
to.
right? So
Okay.
just, you're going to sacrifice yourself.
The last one we'll do is we call them flea or escape bites, where you just say, take off running. And I always love it when the new guy in the suit says, well, for how long? It's like
You'll know.
the dog will tell you, and like you won't get to decide when you stop. So to me, especially motorcycles, like there's a lot of and cars, but there's a number of tracks here in the United States and in Europe that I would love to spend some time on.
Do you do street or dual sport? Or both?
For bikes?
Yeah.
Kind of everything, really.
Okay.
I would say it depends on my mood. Like when I walk into the garage, my mood dictates which bike I get on, 100%.
I already like this.
Yeah.
What's your street bike of choice?
People are going to call me an elitist, but 100% Ducati, in my opinion, can't be beat.
I used to have a Ducati Monster 1100 EVO.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes.
So
It
you know
was
the deal.
Excellent bike.
Yeah.
What's your dream motorcycle?
I have it actually. It's the V4, the Ducati V4R, which is their track homologated bike.
Okay.
They I don't know how familiar you are with their line.
Michael, why aren't you pulling pictures of this shit up?
Yeah,
what do
I'm
I
looking
even
right
pay
now.
you for?
Yeah.
Other than bite suits.
Well, they also have kind of even a step above that. They have their street bikes, and they kind of parse it between 1100s and 1000s. So
Yep.
their 998cc is the homologated race bike that is trickled down from the MotoGP and World Superbike
This
stuff.
one?
Yeah.
You say that Panigale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
That is a sexy ass bike.
yeah, and it pains me that Ducati doesn't just put the race exhaust on instead of that triangular vacuum cleaner looking thing. Because mine has the dual wheelbarrow fucking race exhaust.
Yeah.
It's two pipes that are right under the tail section.
That is actually a very
And it's incredible. Don't get me wrong, like BMW is a very close second.
God damn, that is a good looking bike.
Especially the M1000RR, which is kind of their version of that, is an amazing bike. It's actually a lot easier to ride.
Okay.
To me, what I love about Ducati is that they are harder to ride. So again, like if I want a fast, fun ride without having to overthink it, I will take the BMW. If I want to get in a fight with a motorcycle and blow off steam and feel like I'm riding a fucking bull, then I'm going to take that one,
Yeah.
because it takes a lot more mental energy, a lot more input from the rider to get the most out of it. But it's more rewarding when you do. But again, like there's times if it's been a long day or whatever, and I just want to kind of have fun and relax, maybe I'll take the BMW. Now, I also love like the bagger stuff. Like I've got an Indian as well that, you can put your feet up, Bluetooth, fucking lean back. It's like sitting on a couch.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun too, and it has its place. Overnight trips or a long Sunday ride or whatever is fun. I would say lately I've found myself riding BMW. It's technically an adventure bike, but not really. It's their M1000XR.
Look that up, will you, Michael? Up here, it's very cool dual sport terrain. You're talking logging roads and all that. So I have a KTM 1290.
Is it Super Duke?
Super Adventure R, I think it is.
Okay.
It's I don't know, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
Yeah.
Because it does good on the street, but at the same time, it also does well. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's
so
kind of a cross.
the thing that's really neat about this, especially for where I'm at, like if I was up here, I would probably have a 1250 or like the Ducati Multistrada, but you're not even going on gravel where I'm at, So like those are street track tires, hybrids.
Sure. Yeah, I would not take that on a logging road.
Yeah, for sure. You wouldn't. I mean, even if you put the suspension as soft as it goes and put knobby tires, that still wouldn't be the bike you'd want to take on it. But what I love about that bike is it has the sport bike 1000cc engine in it, so it's a 200 horsepower motorcycle and will almost hang with a sport bike. I mean, it's almost as fast, but you're sitting in a seating position that you can ride for 4 or 5 hours and not get exhausted. Whereas the sport bikes, like you really, for me at least, like where I'm at age-wise, experience level, injury, 30 or 40 minutes on one of those is about as much as I want to spend on them. And then my body's kind of similar to jiu-jitsu. It's like, all right, your lower back and neck are finished riding for the day.
That's why I like that KTM. It's a super upright position. I don't do well on the fully swept forward, leaning out like.
Yeah, they're fun.
I can appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, they're fun for 30 or 40 minutes, and then, so to me, like because with the dogs especially, like traveling is difficult, and vacations are almost laughable in that regard. So, for me, I take 15, 20-minute vacations most days. I'll go jump on a bike in the middle of the day and go. There's this like 20-mile loop around my house that you hit some pretty good kind of rural-ish roads with big sweeping bends and some long straightaways and some pretty good curves, and it's a good 20 or 30-minute little rip that just kind of resets you or whatever. So I really enjoy that. Car-wise, it's a little different. To really enjoy and experience the pushing the envelope on them, you kind of have to be on a track.
I was gonna say.
I mean, you can have fun on the street. It's just not the most responsible thing to do. With a bike, it's one thing. Like you're probably not going to hurt anybody else. You're going to kill yourself on it. But you can also have fun riding these at 30 miles an hour. Whereas in most of like the supercars, the 650 and above horsepower Euro exotic supercars, like those aren't that fun to drive easy. They're almost kind of begging you to push it. Ducati is very much that same way in the bike world. But
what's your dream car?
So I guess it depends on the price. Like
money is no option. Of course, we're billionaires.
Yeah. Probably it's not out yet, so I would want to maybe see how it does in the real world. But McLaren is coming out with it's called the W1.
Dear Michael.
Yeah, this thing is fucking incredible. But
I'm gonna guess it's just probably completely carbon fiber.
It's a lot of carbon fiber, but it's
whoa.
Do
not sell you motherfucker! You just hit accept cookies. Ooh, the gull wing doors.
Yeah. So this thing, it's not out yet. I mean,
scroll down, Michael. Let's look at this thing.
Yeah, it's a monster. But
oh my god.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a couple $1 million. So like,
to billionaires like us, what's the matter? You have to be a billionaire in your mind palace.
Yeah, well, that's true. You got to manifest it. Well, I mean, like a lot of people would say Bugattis or Koenigsegg's or Pagani's. The several million hypercar. The problem I have with those is this is more driver focused. Those
look
are
at that engine.
Yeah. It's a work of art.
Yeah.
Now, under $1 million is a tougher question. I will say, I've been very fortunate in what I've been able to either drive or have, and I would say that the two cars that I've enjoyed the most out of everything that I've driven, and again, like the car and bike scene is pretty big in Dallas.
Yeah, I bet.
And so I know a lot of guys that have garages full of cars like that, and so I've been fortunate enough to drive pretty much everything I've wanted to drive, and I've had a number that I've really enjoyed too. And I'd say that the two that under $1 million that I think are the two best cars out for the money is the Ferrari 488 Pista and the new McLaren 750S. Those two, I think, bang for your buck. it's all relative. I mean, they're still
Yeah.
very expensive cars, but for what you get in performance and the emotion, the connection to the road, I think Ferrari is very similar to Ducati in that way. If the act itself of driving is what motivates you to do it, Ferrari is a tough brand to beat.
What is your daily driver? And
A
don't
tr-
say
truck.
Prius.
No, it's a F-150 truck. I mean,
That's my dream car.
Yeah.
Is the Hennessy Raptor R.
yeah.
To
I mean,
me-
that thing's nuts.
It's nuts. Also, if anybody out there has $250,000 they want to give me so I can buy it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, I like trucks.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I've never been in a Ferrari though, so I can't really talk about the experience.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where I think the best way to try to relate it would be parachuting versus flying.
Okay.
Or yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's like take flying as an example. If you're piloting a 757, the experience that you get from that is what it is, right? Probably pretty sterile by comparison to jumping into an F-16.
Oh yeah.
So to me, that's kind of the difference, and where I would throw motorcycles in is piloting a jumbo jet is normal cars, trucks, etc. Jumping in a fighter jet is like driving a sports car or supercar, and they're going to have different personalities, and they surprisingly do if you're into that. Now, if you don't really give a shit and you just want to be seen in a Lambo or whatever, then it doesn't really matter. Get whatever you like the way it looks the most. But if the experience and the connection to the road and the emotion, the sound of the exhaust and shifting with paddles and pushing that envelope and really testing yourself as a driver competency-wise, then you are going to notice a huge difference between a Porsche, a McLaren, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, whatever. And so to throw motorcycles into the mix, I would say that's where free fall and wingsuits come in, is that even when you're flying, there's still a two-dimension aspect to it compared to parachuting. Mm-hmm. Being on a bike is that 360-degree, 4D experience, whereas even in the fastest, most exhilarating sports car, it still is not the same way that it's exciting on a bike. But so for me, personality plays a big role, and I'm sure people would think it's ridiculous hearing that a car has personality, but they do. Again, if you're into it and and have done it enough to know the nuance between what's what, you can absolutely tell between the way a suspension is on one car versus the other, throttle response, turbo lag, even tires make a huge difference. Like if you have, more kind of all-season type, better traction in shitty conditions tires versus street legal, almost road slicks, is a huge difference in how the car behaves.
Seems like a never-ending rabbit hole for
It is.
people who go down that path.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the same with wingsuits.
oh, for
right?
sure. It's the same as people who nerd out on electronics or, another great
Guns.
Guns. I was
Yeah,
going to say
same thing. Yeah, like
But-
for me, I'm not into guns that much. Where, if you blindfolded me, which wouldn't be a smart idea when you're handling guns, but
Hold on, continue with this because I'm always
yeah,
thinking.
this is video number 5.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah.
Blindfolded,
But
weapons
if
handling.
if you lined up a SIG, a fucking Staccato, a Glock, whatever.
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to tell a difference? Probably not. Maybe. But like, yes, do I like a little bit lighter trigger? Do I like a little stifling in the grip? Yes. But am I going to know stock to modified? Sure. But I'm just not that into it. Like to me, it's like, I like that gun. I don't need to have 9 other ones. So I'm just not into it that same way, where for whatever reason, cars and bikes are that way. And it's interesting because I was never that kid growing up.
Huh.
Like I was never the guy that had the Lambo Countach on the wall. I didn't give a shit about, what Crockett and Tubbs were driving in Miami Vice. Like it was cool, but I didn't care. And it wasn't until I was in my late 30s, early 40s to where it just kind of all of a sudden, for whatever reason, clicked. And I was driving, I want to say 6-7 years ago, I was driving a Subaru Forester. That was my daily driver. And I had 3 of them over the course of 10 years. Had a truck before that, and then went back to a truck, and then just kind of got into the cars and bikes. I think, on the personal protection dog side, you are typically dealing with very high net worth individuals.
Oh, for sure.
that generally are into that. And just over the years, I think it kind of rubbed off. And then, sometimes it'd be like, hey, you want to drive this? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, shut up, drive it. And I drive it, and I'm like, holy shit, it totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
And it is.
It's not that I don't want to drive it. I don't want to wreck it and have to pay for it.
Yeah, well, I'm like, hey, if you said drive it, like, it's insured, and you told me to do it. So.
The issue is not my desire to drive. The issue is my desire to pay for the damage I might do.
But, there's a childish keeping you young. It's like when we were 7 playing with matchboxes. It's like the adult version of that, And I don't like the hybrids. Like Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, they've all come out with these hybrid. And in the true kind of definition of hybrid, it is performance-wise a cool mix of a traditional internal combustion engine that's generally twin turboed or supercharged, some sort of forced induction, with the instant torque and punch of an electric car. And so historically, whether it's naturally aspirated or forced induction, there's a certain amount of lag down low and a lack of throttle response. Some cars are better than others. That's the best car I've ever driven in terms of being a twin turboed car that doesn't feel like it has any lag whatsoever. Really? I mean, it rips your face off the second you touch the throttle. Porsche is probably the worst. No, McLaren. I would say McLaren 720S and older has the worst turbo lag in the world. Like, you step on the throttle and you're like waiting, and then it rips your face off. But it's very
it's got to spool up.
Yeah, it's very dissatisfying. And so now they're coming out with cars that have 2 independent front motors that are electric with a twin turboed V8 in the back. And so you step on it and it gives you Tesla plaid punch. And then when the fucking turbos kick in, it just never stops. And so performance wise, like, they're just ridiculous, but they're not as fun to drive for some reason. They feel more numb and less engaging and just cheap. Huh. It's really strange. I mean, it's kind of like, did you grow up driving a stick shift? I imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of the same
We're probably
thing.
the last generation.
For sure. I mean, you almost can't buy them anymore.
Yeah.
BMW, Cadillac actually they've got a...
Do you know how to drive a shift, Michael?
Yeah, I drove one for a long time.
Damn it, that was going to be a
You're
video.
surprised by that.
I'll give you an example of why. When he said the Hannibal Lecter, what movie is that from?
Sounds of the Lambs.
Go fuck yourself. All right.
How old are you?
23.
25.
He's 19.
He's never seen the Boondock Saints.
Yeah, that is kind of criminal.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, so it different strokes for different folks, I guess. But yeah, to me, just that connection and feeling to the vehicle is what I enjoy probably the most. And same with the motorcycles. Like, there's just something about it that is just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I've never done a wingsuit. I imagine it's similar.
skip it.
Yeah.
Skip it.
I don't see any reason to do it, but
No, it takes a lot of time. Just like driving these cars safely, though, to take a lot of time. And if you're passionate about it, you start at the beginning, but you enjoy it so much along the way that you don't even realize you're kind of hitting these mandatory knowledge and experience wickets. It's cool you've identified that, though.
yeah.
I get a lot of emails from people who their words, not mine, have described life as being like joyless. They haven't identified anything that they're passionate about. And the only advice I really can give anybody is keep exploring.
Yeah, just go do shit. I think it depends on your age too, but especially if you're younger, to me the right answer is find some level of service. That at a minimum you can feel a sense of purpose and like what you're doing matters. Like, at a minimum you should have that in your life. And
that's in every community. People look at it at a national level, which I think is great, and I actually would support like 2 years of mandatory service, not necessarily in the military, but like Red Cross, doctor, like whatever. Just serve, and if you could do it outside of where you live, I think that'd be spectacular. Yeah. But every community has somewhere where you can volunteer. Yeah, it is a state, a federal, or at a local area that it exists. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think, Adam, again, like, even if that doesn't help you figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, it's at least doing something that's net positive to society, and it's giving you a broader spectrum of exposure to things that may help you find what it is that you want to do. Yeah, I think that's the veterans who struggle when they get out. I think that's the biggest reason for that. I don't think it's exposure to traumatic experiences. I think it's losing a sense of identity and purpose, and they feel useless. They go from feeling very needed, which especially for men I think is crucial, and valuable and competent and respected to none of those things. And I think that's far greater negative and depressing and puts them on that path of going down a dark road than something they experienced overseas, I think.
They have to have a shift in mindset a little bit too. If you look at our old job, they were valuable, they're very competent, but we lived in a world where people presented us with the problems to solve. We weren't often looking for them ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know this as well as anybody else who goes out and goes into business on your own. You have to find this problem that you want to solve. And so it takes that shift in mindset of, I am now at a place in my life where nobody is going to be giving me problems to solve. I have all the tools necessary. I, though, have to go find that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tough shift.
No, it's a great point too, because yeah, I mean, I think most men, I mean, to me, that's kind of the secret sauce is you want to feel like you matter.
Yeah, for sure. Who wants to feel like they're useless?
Yeah, and if what you're doing doesn't give you that feeling, I mean, how do you succeed with that? You know, I don't think you can. You know, but
how long ago did you get out? What year did you get out of the teams?
At the end of 2008.
What, you know, looking back on it, what do you think of your service now, looking back on it? Because I'm at 13 years now of when I separated. Actually, hold on. You carry the one on that, 14 years.
Yeah.
At this point. Almost. In June, it'll be 14 years. My thoughts on service have changed, specifically about my own or the utility of it or the meaningfulness of it. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
I would say similarly, they've definitely shifted. I wouldn't say in a negative way, but there was a certain component of naivete and just feeling like that was the right thing to do, wanting to challenge myself, see if I could do it, you know, kind of all the normal cliched reasons why a lot of guys do what we did. To me, the biggest shift, I think, is looking upward into the echelons of our government and realizing, you know, that the assumption that I had that they had our best interest in mind is not there.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, that's probably the most disheartening. Now, it certainly doesn't take away from the sense of pride that I gain from having done what I did. I'm glad I did it. To do it all over again, I would do it all over again.
Same.
I wouldn't do it now. Not that they would even have me back now, but yeah, I think, you know, as the world has gotten smaller through, I think, technology and social media and everybody having a 5K camera in their pocket at all times and seeing some of the things that our government has done, things they've been involved with, how they've handled things, it becomes very apparent that, you know, the most cliched and cringy, typical political response of like, support the troops, you know, the Bill Clinton half thumb, is total bullshit. You know, I think there are some that absolutely feel that way, but I think if you were to take our government as a collective, there's a lot of things I don't like about it when it comes to how they employ the military, what they do with military members afterwards, what they don't do. And so I don't question anybody, including myself, the commitment and the kind of nobility and honorable nature with which service exudes. What I would say is that it kind of further makes a distinction for it was about the fact that I was saying, hey, and I find this about all military, or this is how I feel about them, is that I have the utmost respect for somebody who's willing to volunteer to possibly give their own life in service of their country, however their government sees fit, and they're just trusting that their government has their best interests in mind and is going to use them in the best way possible. I don't think that they do that. I don't think that takes away any honorable nature with which people serve their country, though.
Agreed.
And so I still look on it favorably, and I still would encourage and respect the hell out of people who continue to volunteer to serve now. But it does leave a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth in relation to how our government uses us and just how they conduct themselves on the world stage on our behalf.
I would be shocked if there's a generation of veterans that it doesn't arrive at that place at some point in time.
Yeah.
I don't think we are living. I don't know if anybody's creating new shit at this point. I think we're almost on a little bit of a repeat cycle over time.
Yeah.
I really think that is a commonplace, especially as you get older, when you look back on the service and the things that the government asked you to do and for the reasons that they told you that you were doing them. And then over the course of time, you get a different optic on those reasons.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's easy to armchair quarterback everything. But to your point, I think, you can go back a few millennia, and I think that was still the case.
Oh, for sure.
So human nature is what it is. Some things never change, and I think this is as good of an example of that as any. But yeah, whether it's Vietnam, the World War II guys, maybe I do find myself kind of looking at that period, not that any of us were around then, but that seemed a little different, than anything else. I mean, even going back to, maybe the Revolutionary War, but even that, like, I've done some tours in New England, some pretty in-depth historical tours, and hearing other sides of even the Revolutionary War, like John Adams and how he was kind of a tabloid whore and manipulated some of the news sources to make things seem a certain way when they really weren't.
No, this would never happen.
Imagine.
Again, nobody's creating new shit. We're
Right.
doing the same shit through different mediums.
Yeah. So, but World War II does seem a little different. Now, maybe it's the way that it's portrayed.
Yeah.
But it does seem like if there were a existential crisis sitting on America's doorstep that needed to be addressed, like if I look at our nation's history and just as kind of a broad stroke, that to me seems like it stands out as being the most appropriate or reasonable for our involvement, and not just getting involved, but when we did, how we did, the fact that it's not a 6-month deployment. You go over there and you come home when you're finished.
Yeah.
And the way the entire country got behind it, of course, that's our side, like we don't know what anybody else's side is, in terms of whether it's Nazi Germany or the Japanese or, obviously they thought they were the good guys too.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand how that's possible, but how much of that is, state-run media that portrayed things that, who knows? So, yeah, I guess coming back to my original point is that I just think nations and the world needs people who are willing to do that in a big enough number to kind of keep the balance, globally. But it is heartbreaking, I think, when you think about so many fucking great men that you and I know, loved, trusted, lived with, cared about, that are no longer here because of the decisions that our government made. That's pretty fucking hard to...
Or the impact of those decisions that, terminated their loss of life after service.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between the price and the cost.
Yeah.
And this is something I didn't think about when I was in. I look back now, I didn't realize how much I put my family through.
Right.
Like sleepless nights, worrying about what I was up to. I was full on, the universe consisted of and started with me, and that was it. And this is what I want to do. And hey, cool, 9/11 happened. I'm going to get to do operationally my job. Let's put the gas pedal in the Ferrari to the floor. The stress and all of that, the price tag, we signed on the dotted line. I understood what I was conceptually, I guess, signing up for. The cost, though, is all of that wear and tear that you put on the people that support you.
Yeah.
I think we could win every single battle and engagement with individuals, but we'd lose every single war if it wasn't for the families that support the people that come back. And that's the cost.
Yeah.
And that shit is forgotten.
Indeed.
And it's, the guys, I think at this point, I saw a stat now for our era, there are more veterans that have killed themselves through suicide than the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq combined.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Yeah.
And that's indicative of the cost of asking people to do those things. I don't think the government is suited or tooled to probably help those individuals. I personally think that there might be a role for an NGO or another entity outside of the government to help with that, but it's invisible.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think, to the cost aspect of it, there's a difficulty, I think, in a double-edged sword in technology, specifically with air traffic. The fact that you can fly over there in a day and fly home in a day, if you look at manned combat in its entire scope for as long as we've known that.
Oh, it
it's
never
been
happened.
around.
They were taking month-long journeys to get home or weeks on ships.
Yeah, and especially before even ships were involved, you think about like Spartans, a 3-month hike back after that to decompress and be with just the guys and rationalize it. You're hunting together, you're sitting around a fire at night. Like the difference between coming home that way and 9 hours ago I was in Baghdad getting shot at and now I'm holding a 2-year-old. Like, holy fuck,
Yeah.
like that's not normal or healthy, or it's like it shouldn't come as a surprise as to why that doesn't pan out well,
Yeah.
And so to me, to again, to your point of the cost, is that our government needs to look at both of those instead of just the price. And they don't do that, and it's the same with dogs. It's even worse with dogs, is that they're considered a line item.
Yeah. Consumable.
Yeah, and so it's a travesty. But and I also think, the government could do a better job at incentivizing people, post military service too. I think things, simple things, and I don't know, again, maybe the numbers don't shake out, but something as simple as far as making guys feel like they're taken care of. Like, what if, the U.S. government implemented, hey, if you served and you're discharged honorably, whether you went to combat or not, is that for the rest of your life you're not going to pay any income tax? Like that. The percentage of people that fall into that category, like
It's 0.05% of the population.
like, does that
Yeah.
adjust our budget and deficit? Probably not. I doubt it, But think about what that would do for everybody who's ever served their country. Like, it would be life-changing.
I haven't considered that one.
And that should be a simple thing to do. Same with healthcare. I've had a number of issues with the VA. I think a lot of guys have. To me, if you look at the amount of money that's spent on the VA's budget, but when you consider the fact that there's real estate, there's utilities, there's equipment, the system that is the VA, how expensive that is. Now, again, far smarter people than me could tell me maybe this is a pipe dream and it would actually be way more expensive. I don't think it would. Maybe it would overwhelm our current medical care system. But if you were to say, okay, we're disbanding the VA entirely, and now you just, when you get out honorably, here is your veteran insurance card. You go wherever the fuck you want. Wherever you live, you go to your nearest doctor, whoever you choose, and you just hand them that card and they bill the government. I would bet that would be cheaper than what it costs to run the VA.
I would be utterly shocked if it wasn't.
Yeah, and so to me, it's cheaper. The standard of care is 1,000 times better. You get to pick. It's right down the road. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. Those two things, financially, I don't think would hurt the country. But those two things would make the overall getting out of the military experience for every single veteran that's ever served life-changingly better.
Yeah.
It seems like a simple solution to me. Maybe it isn't, but I don't know. I would love to hear, somebody who's in the weeds in that realm to pick that apart and tell me why it's not. I don't see the downsides,
Yeah, I hadn't thought about either of those. I do like the income tax one.
Yeah, simple. I mean, to me, because it's like you see the, I don't know what the fucking company's called, but like the VA mortgage.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it's
There's an entire ecosystem that exists around that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like, to me, it's insulting. It's like, we're going to let you borrow 100% of your home loan. You don't have to put 20% down. Like, how is that a way better deal? It's like, you're going to let me go further in debt.
20% down.
Yeah, it's like deficit spending.
Look at your low monthly payment, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to let you borrow more money. We're going to let you be more irresponsible. Like, but they have,
pitch it through. They're giving you a looser lending criteria that would allow you to qualify for potentially more.
Yeah, I mean,
whether or not you're qualified to pay for that more,
yeah,
that's a discussion to be had. But
I think, again, like, now you compare that to you don't pay income tax. There's a big difference between those two things.
Yeah. There's a couple. I mean, Michael, Google how many veterans there are. I know that about 0.05% of the U.S. population is currently serving.
I think it's like 3%, right? Or is it 1%?
For veterans?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the... So 3% of 360 million, we're at about 10 million people right there.
That's 15 million.
15 million. All right. So that would be 15 million people removed from the tax basis. Let's say half the population is under 18, so not paying taxes. So at 180, you'd be 165 million people. It might make a dent. It might be a blip, but it wouldn't be galactic.
Yeah. But, to me, the way that, even some of the things that I do see now with whether it's tariffs or, the $5 million
the golden visa?
Easy pass for
Easy pass. Very Florida.
Yeah. I actually like that idea. With the stipulations that you have to invest X number of dollars and start a business and employ so many, there's got to be some.
It's not even a unique idea. There's countries in Europe that do that as well. I don't know if they call it easy pass, but they should.
Yeah. If they don't, they ought to. But I guess, to me, even if, let's say, hey, it would make a noticeable difference, especially when you see, Doge has its pros and cons. I think it's mostly pros, but the amount of waste that's already taking place, you could clean so much of that up, and still come out way ahead. If there was some sort of piggyback program where it was like, hey, if we do this, we have to cut from, wherever. I've always been obviously a proponent of a healthy budget for the Pentagon. But man, if you can't fucking pass an audit for 8 years, like, you don't deserve it.
Have you ever seen the woman on? It's a clip, and maybe I'm seeing a clip out of context, where she is arguing that they did pass an audit while saying that they didn't.
Yeah, I've seen.
No, it's not that we don't know where the money is, and the guy's like,
"But you didn't pass the audit."
So you did? No. We didn't pass the audit, but we know where. It was the craziest circular logic that I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, it's like the most obnoxious gaslighting. It's like, and it's Jon Stewart. He's like,
it was Jon Stewart. You're right,
and he's not even being a dick about it. He's just like, wait. He's like, if you didn't pass the audit, how do you know where the money is? We do. Okay, well, where is it then?
We just can't show you.
We can't. Yeah, we're not exactly sure. It's like, so you are or you're not. Like, to watch that, you're just like, holy fuck, what is she in charge of?
Everything.
Yeah, but
maybe I have no idea who that woman was.
but I think you could, in that same realm, you could pay our soldiers probably double what they pay now, give them better equipment, better housing, better everything, and still cut billions. Probably fucking trillions over a 10-year period from our defense budget, and still be in better shape if it was just done appropriately. I think going back to, I think it was Socrates that said it, I think it's around 40,000 people. Like, there's this magic number of whether it's a city or, obviously there weren't companies back then, but past a certain size, like, there is no efficient way to run it, and I think that's part of the problem, is it's so big.
Yeah.
Like, one person can't be in charge of all those things. So there's just so many people in the middle that there's just by default a certain level of inefficiency and right hand not talking to the left hand that there's not really a way around. Doesn't mean that it's acceptable, but it doesn't seem like they're really even trying to fix it. It's like the one, and I think you and I can speak to it maybe more frankly than, your average taxpayer has just as much fucking reason to be bitching about it. But I think for guys like us to say, I'm okay with and actually support a reduced defense budget, but be smarter about it, I think carries more weight, because we're not just saying, fucking give them whatever they need. It's like, you could give them whatever they need, pay them more and take better care of them, and still spend less money if you would just do it smarter.
There are so many ways where you could reduce the bigger number. Were you ever in a supply role at all for one of your platoons?
Thank God, no. But
so, and I, briefly, and I'm not saying this applies to the whole industry at large, why is there a different cost for things sold to the government versus individuals?
Yeah.
Why is it so much more expensive often? Yeah. There's a fucking way right there we could cut cost.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Department of Defense budget drastically reduced while efficiency goes through the roof.
Right.
Because both can be true.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure that they have absolutely what they need, the best cutting edge shit. And I'm here to tell you right now, it could be done. I'm not going to say at a fraction of the cost because I don't have enough data to support that, but cheaper than it's currently being done.
Significantly less.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And why it's not is,
why it's not, my personal guess is there's enough people in that system with their fingers in the pot. There's more incentive for it to stay the way that it is than to change.
For sure. And I think, and it's on the smallest scale at supply departments, at individual commands, all the way up to big defense contractors that now have General What's-His-Nuts on their board of directors, and he still has a bunch of friends that are in the military that if we go to war with so-and-so and our defense budgeting committee allocates fucking McDonnell Douglas with this $47 billion contract every 3 months. Everybody wins, except the United States.
Yeah.
I think it's really that simple. Is that, I mean, because you see it, even just a little bit of uncovering of Doge of like, to me, one of the biggest ironies is the NGO thing, the loophole of, sitting members of Congress that have a sister, that starts whatever fucking nonprofit. It's like, it by its very definition and in name is a non-governmental organization.
Yeah.
Why is it being funded by the government? Like, does that not completely...
Because it allows them to do shit outside of the government purview.
Yeah.
Why does the agency use cutouts?
Yeah. And so now my sister's, making $2 billion a year, and I'm getting 10% of that, because it's just the problem. The biggest problem I think is, like, we can sit here and bitch about it, and people can run for office and whatever, but the reality of it, it's a system that is a hamster wheel of corruption, where to try to fix it, it's like asking the fox to audit himself in the hen house. Yep. Like, of course he didn't do anything wrong. Of course, whatever chickens he killed, he was supposed to or deserved or whatever. It's like, you're never going to get people who don't need to hold themselves accountable, who are benefiting superiorly from it, to actually do the right thing when they don't have to and nobody's looking over their shoulder.
What's the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
I mean, man, you see it day in, day out, I'm sure you get asked, like, were you ever going to run for politics?
Fuck,
like, no. Like, I'm not dragging my family through that,
That is actually one of the biggest sticking points for me too, is you just, as somebody who participates in politics, as an observer and a voting citizen, it is one of the most vitriol-filled spaces that I've ever seen.
It's nasty.
Yeah, and like you said, the family's getting drug into that. What?
Yeah, why would I do that?
No.
I mean, I have a theory on that too that I put in my Unfuck America book, which looking back on it probably wasn't the best title to use.
Or it was the best.
Sales would indicate that it was. If that's your metric, it wasn't a good title. From a politics standpoint, like, I'm not the trees of liberty need to be watered with the blood of tyrants type of guy that thinks that we should burn the whole fucking country down. However, the current system, I think most people could agree, is not working. When you look at favorability ratings at whatever fucking department or group or whatever entity you look at, they're embarrassingly low. And so,
well, I don't think the founding fathers ever imagined the structure that they created being used at the size, scope, and scale that it is.
For sure.
I think it's outside of the parameters that they imagined.
Yeah. And I actually am stealing this idea from rural Texas. Jury duty, and so they do these 6-month stints basically in the county where my kennel is located. Back when I was living out there, I got summoned to do jury duty, and it's grand jury duty. So it's a 6-month period where basically the entire voting base of the county, and I would do the same thing for the House of Representatives. It's not going to work at the high level of president. But I think because the House of Representatives is the gate with which everything else, whether it's spending bills, and this is obviously including the Senate, whether it's judges, cabinet members, vetoing president's bills, like, the amount of power that should be actually used and not partisan, parsed out, is actually significant. And I think it's the most powerful branch by a long shot. But so in that same realm is you have every region, whether it's a county, I mean, how you're going to separate it out, I think you would just piggyback the counties. But each voting base of the county basically has to put a list of 10 names together of people that they think who have been living here long enough, who aren't felons, who pay their taxes, et cetera. And so now at the end, everybody, submits their list of 10 people. And the top, however many, 12 or 14 with reserves or whatever, gets summoned and says, hey, enough people put your name down to where now you're one of the grand jury personnel that has to sit for the next 6 months and review these cases and decide whether or not they go to trial. And I thought about it, and I was like, you could do that at the same level for Congress. Take whatever, this district for Congressman 3A in Texas or whatever, whatever it is, use that same metric and say, you guys decide who's going to be the person. Now you're removing the elbow rubbing of funds, right?
Yeah.
Like, I own a construction company and I give you $5 million for your campaign. And hey, by the way, when the public works contract comes up, you're kicking it to me. It removes all of that. It removes nasty ads. Like, nobody even knows who it's going to be until it's too late. And so now it does two things. One, it removes I'm sure there's still a potential for corruption. I'm not saying that this is an open and shut, flawless idea, but I think it's, without doing a hard reset where you're completely overthrowing the United States government, but restoring the power to the people to decide who goes to office, and they're most accurately representing the wishes of their actual constituents. I think it's the best way forward. And so now you don't get a choice. Like, if your name is the top guy or gal in that district, you're basically, just like with jury duty, you don't get a fucking choice with that either. Now, there'd have to be some sort of stipulation where, depending on what the circumstances are, let's say you have, special needs kid. I mean, I'm sure there's some waivers, but that's why you have the top 10 people. Maybe it's the 7th person on the list because the first 6 had reasons why it just didn't make sense. But now you've got a collective mean average of the most well-suited by the majority of the population with no other bias or influence, political, economical, financial, whatever, being forced to go do that. And you're also getting rid of the terms. You're instituting term limits by default. So now the people, because I truly believe if you want to run for office, that should fucking disqualify you. I mean, there's a reason why you want to do it, and show me the good one. I mean, yeah, there are a handful of guys, even some from our community, that I think are there for the right reasons. Eli would absolutely be one of them. But I think, if you put somebody in a position where they don't want to do something, and there's that sense of civic duty of saying, holy shit, like, I didn't realize that many people in this region, county, district, whatever, thought that I was the guy that they want representing them. Like, to me, that should be a sense of honor and pride, and make you want to go serve your country, and you don't have a choice. But I think, that sets the stage for now. Any Supreme Court nominations, are going through that body of people via the Senate. All the cabinet member picks, any of the bills, and I would also separate any foreign spending, any type of foreign aid whatsoever should be a standalone, voted on by itself by the entire fucking House of Representatives, because you should have to look your constituents in the face and say, I sent your fucking money to Egypt. Like, I said yes.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to bury it in other shit. Yeah,
you shouldn't be able to earmark that into anything. Any foreign aid for any reason, I don't give a shit what it is, should be a standalone bill. I think, that's as good of a step forward for a drastic change, but not so drastic to where you risk losing the entire country over it. I'm sure there would be some flaws, there would be some hurdles, but to me, it's like that seems like a good way to reset that corruption button and now make it way more difficult for a lot of the things that seem to happen and go unnoticed or unchecked, now no longer to do so. And you can only do it for 3 years maybe. I mean, I don't know what the right amount of time is, but because I do think 2 years is too short. 6 is probably too long.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 3 or 4. I don't know, but I think that's a good way to at least try to unfuck the problems that are started, because everything has to go through them. And again, you can't do that on a presidential level because it's just too big in scope. But if, a region of a couple 100,000 people all say, Jimmy Jones is my guy, and that many people want him representing their region in Washington, D.C., I think that's as good a fit as any.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how the system played out. Out of the time you spent in the teams, what do you think is the most important takeaway you've taken from that time? Is there anything that sticks with you to this day?
Accountability, not to sound cliched, that seems to be a lot of people saying, but I think, one of the things that bothers me the most in my adult relationships, whether it's personal, professional, or even looking at our elected politicians, is people who can't say, I fucked that up, because so few people do it. I wasn't responsible for that. No, he fucked, Because that carries over into the political divide, partisan-wise too. It's like if you can't hold your guy to the same level that you're holding the other guy, you can go fuck yourself.
Totally.
And I think that is hammered into us so well as a new guy in a platoon, where it's like, dude, if you fuck up, you better own it and fucking tell me right now.
Yeah, the earlier the better, actually.
Yeah.
Nothing that doesn't age like a fine red from France.
Yeah.
A
Or
nice Malbec.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, who did this? I did it. I fucked it up. My bad.
Yeah.
All right, here's your punishment. Fucking don't do it again. Maybe you end up taped up in a closet with Tabasco sauce down your ass crack, but that in and of itself is video number 6.
That's a hard no on that
The
one.
happy hat with Tabasco
this
in the
is.
nuts.
I'm just grabbing these ideas. I'm just what could make good content.
He's like, why the fuck did you invite this guy on the show?
Yes.
Listen, the best thing to do when you're exposed to generational trauma is to pass it on.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I heard it was
Three
really
Loves
well.
Company. Yeah, now we can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, you got that going.
You're in
for
the
you.
trust tree.
Yeah, but yeah, I do think I think that's what our society lacks probably the most is just general basic accountability.
Yeah.
And I think whether it's a parent with their kids, teacher with their students, coach with their athletes. Pick an element of society. I think nothing builds and breeds resentment like a lack of accountability, and nothing, I think, reinforces elements of leadership like owning your mistakes and being accountable for them.
Yeah. And it's not that hard to do. It just sucks.
To me, if anything, the initial brunt is like getting the tip of your dick caught in a mousetrap. Video number 7.
Why aren't you writing this down, Michael?
I want these to be forgotten.
Oh,
Never.
shit, I forgot to hit record on this.
Yeah, damn it.
But yeah, I honestly think, though, after that initial sting, it's actually a relief.
Yeah.
Because to me, like...
People respond to it as well.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because at the end of the day, we're all human, but we have this lens that we look and judge other people through that we don't judge ourselves through. Like, I know I am an imperfect person. I am going to fuck up. And it's not fun to say when you did fuck up, but you'll do it personally, professionally, and everything in between. So will everybody else.
Yeah.
Because every person that you're looking at is imperfect as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and
that is why I think the recovery arc the recovery arc stories are actually so powerful when people are willing to do that and rebuild. That's why they have the ability to do so, and people will accept that change and accept them for who they are if they're willing to step up in front of it.
Yeah, and I think the more entrenched in a leadership role that you are, the more imperative it is that you can do that. Because I don't know how it was with your kids. It took me a while to learn this, but telling your kids that you made a mistake is huge.
I have apologized to my kids many times, and I try to do it as soon as possible. And I explained them. I just talk to them like age appropriate, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm doing the best I can. I don't have an instruction list. Sometimes my emotions get the best of me. I shouldn't have said that. This is what I should have done. But yeah, you address it up front.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Yeah, and I think they respect you more. They value your level of authority, or it highlights where you are in the hierarchy better. It dissolves some of the resentment kids have for their parents. Not all of it, because I think all kids resent their parents a little bit. But
until they become parents,
Yeah.
and they go, son of a bitch.
and they're like, man, he knew what he was doing. For sure. But yeah, but I think it's that way with kids. It's that way with employees too. Because it's like, as an employer, like the last thing I want is to say, hey, who fucked this up? And everybody points their finger. No, I want somebody to say, I did that. I fucked it up. I'm sorry. Like I have way more compassion and wiggle room and empathy for somebody who's like, yep, I did it.
Yep.
As opposed to me having to, Sherlock Holmes it and figure out 3 days later, now that I've just wasted 3 days of my time and you fucking lied to me. It's like,
That's how you get fired.
Yeah. Like I don't need you working for me if you can't, so
Yeah.
that it goes up and down the chain both ways. So, I will say, I have said this a number of times, and I'll repeat it till the day I die. To be able to spend from 18 to 30 around a group of men, 200 and some odd other older seasoned guys who've been around the world, who have been doing a dangerous job, like to be in that environment, like you couldn't pay to put people in that age range in a better environment. I think, and I'll be forever grateful that I was fortunate enough to be in that environment, because man, what a fucking breeding ground and learning opportunity.
I agree, man. Dude, we've been at it for 3 hours.
It doesn't feel like it.
I know. I got to meet my wife at noon. Yeah. What do you want to close it out with? Because she'll fuck both of us up. She's goddamn 3-stripe black belt.
Can you not take her? Or
I have beaten her one time.
No shit. Is it usually a stalemate?
No. You don't understand.
That's impressive.
As I was winning, I saw the shift in her eyes, and I realized it's not worth it.
Wow.
It's not
like
worth it.
At home, or it's not worth what's going to happen?
Yes, just in general. Yeah. No. Even if you can beat your spouse,
don't do it.
We end in draws.
If push came to shove.
Yeah. Dude, size and strength are real.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking 220-pound dude.
Yeah.
She's not a 220-pound dude.
Yeah.
She is better at jiu-jitsu than me. I could overpower her.
Yeah. You're good enough to where
Correct.
size and strength matters. Yeah.
That would be the delineating factor.
Not to draw this out, I know you got to go. I am curious, at what point in your path did you realize that you could? Was it not until you were a black belt, or was it before then?
It was before then.
Yeah. Purple? Brown? She's not going to listen to this, right?
God, I hope not.
Somebody's going to tell her probably, but
right at around late purple, early brown.
Yeah.
It's not magic.
Yeah. It's a formula.
Yeah.
In terms of your question, how would I close it out? I mean, for me, I appreciate you bringing me on, and and for anybody.
Well, fuck, you've had an open invite for years.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it either way, and I'd love to have you come back down
for sure
if you ever find yourself.
Yeah,
in
I'd
Texas,
love to.
Because
I'm not coming in the summer.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Maybe October, November. Even October's still hot, but I'd love to have you back on. I mean, because shit, you were one of my early guests. It's been 6-7 years now, probably.
It has been a long time.
Yeah, but. Yeah, no, just for anybody listening, I appreciate any of the support. Warrior Dog Foundation is the thing I would plug, and not any of the companies. Just any help on that front. We always need it, and appreciate everybody's support. But just thanks for listening, and I appreciate you having me on.
Fuck yeah, man. Until next time.
All right.
Right on.